them there. And I will go down there after, if we don't go too long in this meeting. They are only open till, what, 4:30 or something? 4. Oh, they're only open till 4. Shut up, now we have to talk fast.
Okay, being 2 o'clock, I'm going to call to order the Town Lake Placid Community Development Agency regular meeting agenda meeting Thursday, March 6, 2025, 2 p.m., actually 2:01, at the Town of Lake Placid Government Center. Would you please rise for the invocation? Father, please guide us in our decisions, give us wisdom, and bless our town and our people in it. Bless the people that are here today that traveled here to do your work, and bless them as they travel home. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Vice Mayor, can we do
I'm
roll
sorry,
call?
roll call.
Mayor Holbrook, Vice Mayor Worley,
Here.
Councilmember Charles,
Here.
Councilmember Hayes,
Here.
Councilmember Eberhardt,
Here.
Board Member Hartzell, Board Member Ken LeBlanc.
And I might say at this time, Frank Hartzell did contact me. He had a out-of-town commitment, but he's still trying to be here for the rest of the meeting. So hopefully he'll be able to make it for part of the meeting. Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion for the consent agenda, please.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Anything from the audience? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Charles,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Councilmember Worley,
Yes.
Councilmember Eberhardt,
Yes.
Board Member Ken LeBlanc.
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving along to public comments. I don't have anything here, but I know our town administrator, Charlotte, has some information for us.
Hey, Debra, can you talk into the microphone? Is your work, we can't hear.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I'll try to talk louder. Yeah, okay, so we don't have anybody, I don't have any requests to speak, so our town administrator, Charlotte, would like to give us some information from the public.
Good afternoon. So I asked Councilwoman Worley if I could just speak a little bit because I've had a lot of questions with all of the activity we have with the CRA. There are some people who still don't completely understand what the process is, and so I thought this would be an open setting. If anybody's tuning in, then this would be a perfect opportunity to be able to educate them, but also to kind of hone us back into how we got here. So the community redevelopment areas. We wanted to focus on the areas because I've been asked about the map, what covers that, how did we develop it, how did people get chosen for that, why are we not doing facade grants, just a lot of different questions because many different municipalities do different things based off of their CRA. So the community redevelopment areas are a common government tool for redevelopment in Florida with the goal of revitalizing areas designated as slum and blight. They operate on a budget generated by the increase in property taxes within the area. Florida's Community Redevelopment Act of 1969 authorizes local governments to establish the CRAs to revitalize areas that are designed as slum and blight. So the primary community redevelopment objectives are also defined by the legislation, and it includes, and I'm going to go through some of these, to address the physical, social, and economic problems associated with slum and blight areas, to encourage local government to improve the physical environment. That includes buildings, streets, parks, and utilities through rehabilitation, conservation, or clearance and rehabilitation, to convey local community redevelopment agencies the power to expand public funds as a means to improve the slum and blighted areas, to enhance the tax base in the redevelopment areas by encouraging private investment through channeling of tax increment revenues into public improvements within the designated areas, which would be our CRA map, to eliminate substandard housing conditions and to provide adequate housing to residents of low or moderate income, particularly the elderly. So public meetings begin the designation process, and several steps have to be accomplished before the CRA is created. That requires a finding of necessity, formally identifying blight conditions with the targeted areas, and establishing the area boundary. Once approved by the city, the CRA board is set up, the city or the town. So we had our board set up through that. The community redevelopment plan addresses the unique needs of the targeted area and includes overall redevelopment goals and specific projects. So it's project-based. The CRA board must approve the plan with local planning advisory board approval, as well as a public hearing prior to submission for approval. So there were community workshops that went into our plan, where we invited in for the public to come and tell us what it is they were looking for, what they wanted in this plan. A redevelopment trust fund enables town staff to direct the increase in real property tax revenues back into the CRA. This tax increment is used to fund and finance the redevelopment projects outlined in our community redevelopment plan. All of you received a new copy. I know Eva said that it's been passed out before, but for the sake of all of the work that we've been doing right now and all of the questions that are coming, felt like it was best to go ahead and put a fresh copy in your hands so that it will help you with answering any of those questions. The town staff is responsible for developing and implementing the community redevelopment plan and identifying the types of projects for the CRA. Traditional projects include streetscapes and roadway improvements, building renovations, new building construction, flood control initiatives, water and sewer improvements, parking lots and garages, neighborhood parks, sidewalks, and street tree plantings. Some CRA plans can also include redevelopment incentives such as grants and loans for things such as the facade improvements, sprinkler system upgrades, signs, and structural improvements. So some CRAs do outline that. In our CRA, because you have it in front of you. If you look on page 58, our mission, goals, and objectives were outlined. The mission of the Lake Placid CRA, the mission of the Town of Lake Placid Community Redevelopment Agency is to eliminate and prevent conditions of slum and blight by funding eligible infrastructure projects such as new sidewalks and sidewalk improvements, road work including repaving and new roads, traffic calming, storm water improvements, street lighting and other street improvements, water and wastewater collection and treatment system improvements, and other CRA-identified infrastructure. Projects consistent with the goals and objectives of the plan are determined to be eligible projects that are listed as short-term and long-term projects in this plan. Then if we drop down to the goals and objectives of the plan are intended to be consistent and compatible with the goals and objectives of the Town of Lake Placid Comprehensive Plan. Projects that are consistent with the goals and objectives may be considered eligible projects and are listed as short-term and long-term projects in this plan. So our goals include improve infrastructure within the district, including roadway paving, sidewalks, crosswalks, street lighting, water and wastewater collection and treatment system improvements, and drainage. Encourage the improvement of substandard housing conditions within the district through public infrastructure projects. Improve and expand landscaping, streetscaping, and other aesthetic qualities within the district. Develop wayfinding signage and enhance gateways. Encourage business redevelopment and beautification. Increase walkability within the district. and encourage the development of vacant lots within the district. Then we go through our objectives of the plan. To address infrastructure improvements throughout the district, including roadway paving, sidewalks, crosswalks, street lighting, water and wastewater collection and treatment system improvements, and drainage. To encourage the elimination of substandard housing conditions through public infrastructure improvements. To encourage the development of redevelopment of vacant, semi-vacant, and/or underutilized properties within the district. To encourage new business development within the district while encouraging equal focus on the retention and expansion of existing businesses. To develop a more walkable and pedestrian-oriented atmosphere in the district, and to improve the appearance of the district through beautification, targeted streetscaping, landscaping, and/or residential programs and projects. To enhance the atmosphere of collaboration among businesses, residents, the CRA, and the town. And then I do have a couple of items that I don't want to bog down our meeting. I know that Eva has attended, I have attended, Councilwoman Worley has attended, and I believe Rachel may have attended the CRA. Okay, so we have the Florida Redevelopment Association, who also has an academy that could be attended by anybody who is on the CRA board. It's also open to the public, so anyone in the public who would like to know more about the CRA can attend the academy so that they can find out all of the ins and outs. But additionally to that, we also have, and now I just lost my thought. Oh, I'm sorry, there it is. Came right back, sorry. Jennifer Cotto-Salisbury with the Central Florida Regional Planning is also our resource. And so I did confirm with her to make sure they re-looked at our plan. They've looked at our budget. They looked at our capital improvement plan. And everything aligns right now with our projects exactly the way that our plan is written to be. So I just wanted to kind of lay some groundwork, put some information out there. If anybody is tuning in, they can obtain this information by going on our website under the CRA tab. It's on there under Community Redevelopment, and they can access all of the information. They can see previous annual reports, they can see the budget, and they can also see the plan itself. Thank you. Any questions for me on this before we move forward?
Are there any comments or questions? Okay, well, thank you. I think that our town administrator wanted to clarify and read it into the record, more information. The public, now that we are doing the CRA, there's a lot of questions out there, and so this will help clarify to the public, and any of this information is available to the public online. So let the record show that Frank Hartzell has joined us on the board.
Can I just ask the question, is the package that you gave us is the original package that was approved by the CRA? What's the timing for that? 2011? 2017.
Was when, okay. And so, and then it's typically in for 10 years, correct? 40 years. I'm sorry, say that again.
I believe CRAs are 40 years.
And the reason I ask it because of interest is the section, page 65, which lists projects between short-term, 5 years or less, and then long-term. So it probably wouldn't be a bad idea at some time to do a, how are we doing? You know, we listed in 2017, 8 years ago, these are the projects we want to do 5 years and less. And then my assumption would be once those get done, you start on the longer ones. So it's just always something to, you know, we've got a charter here, we agreed to it. Well, how are we measuring up to it?
I think the big thing to note, though, is this is the first year we've actually been able to utilize it. So this is we're all very fresh and new in our CRA. We're still, I don't know why. Is
You
Leanne
have to
up there?
talk directly into these microphones.
Can you hear me, Leanne? Okay. It won't let me.
You can't talk sideways. You got to talk directly into.
I'll have to look
These
this way
mics
then,
need to
so I
be
won't be able to look
replaced.
at anybody. I'm gonna look at the clock.
You do if you do sideways like this. But go ahead.
Yeah, it won't do it. It's not gonna do it. So we're still in the infancy stages, is what I was going to say. So we'll see that grow as we continue to move through our CRA. I did ask Mr. Harris to come today just to put some clarification on who can and can't vote, because I've had a lot of questions come up for transparency purposes on whether it was acceptable for Mr. LeBlanc and also for Ms. Worley to be able to make votes, and then actually it would even apply to Mr. Hartzell, because you have a business as well. So I asked him to come and just give us a little bit of legal advice on how this works.
Thank you. For the record show, Bert Harris, our town attorney, has come to the podium and is going to enlighten us.
Thank you. Are there particular questions you'd like me to address first, or just go into the general ethics of who can vote on what? I will take that silence as the latter. The questions I've heard deal with Ken and Debra. For example, the paving in front of Debra using porous concrete that would allow the road to drain through the pavement. And some concern was raised, gee, it's in front of Debra, she can't vote on it. Actually, it's in the public right-of-way, therefore there are two portions of the scripture, the statute, that you would be concerned with. One is whether Debra gets a special private gain or benefit out of the paving, and the answer to that is no. And the other is Debra doing business with the town? Answer, no. I've confirmed with the Commission on Ethics that Debra has no conflict, not even a colorable conflict, in voting on that issue. Just imagine if Debra had been prevented from voting on that issue. Does that mean a repaving of Interlake would come up to Debra's and then stop for 100 feet and then continue? No, that's not the answer. Debra gets to vote on anything, on any right-of-way in the public good, on the public property. The same with Ken. Ken cannot vote to spend money on his property. He couldn't. Well, the wayfinding sign may be different. Let's hope we'll put that off till later. But anything on the public right-of-way is not a special private gain for Ken. That's assuming he's not saying, hey, stop, turn here to my business. That gets closer into the special private gain area of Chapter 112, .313, I believe it is. So, particularly in a small town, you're going to run into this where Frank or Ken or Debra or any of us will have stuff going on in our neighborhood, and they've decided, where do you draw the line? What's too close? Well, the line is your private property right, your private property boundary. So if you're on the public right-of-way, you can vote. Questions?
Well, I had an original question, and I didn't think acting as mayor in this situation that I should vote on the CRA. I shouldn't have a vote because I'm the chair. But I was told that no, in this situation, as the chair and the CRA in this meeting, that I do vote, even though I'm acting as mayor. Is that true?
You're acting for the CRA at this point, not as mayor. The mayor on town council votes only in the event of a tie. I cannot tell you, I was not prepared for that question, Debra. I've not looked. But generally on any agency, every board member is required to vote unless you have a conflict or legal reason not to. I see our town administrator shaking her head up and down as though she's read it more recently, and I would defer to
Yes,
Charlotte.
he's accurate. He's
Yeah,
accurate.
I just wanted to bring that up since we're talking about all this, because I was told I should vote. And as you said, I'm actually required to vote. So in the beginning, I did question that sitting in this chair. So I'm glad you clarified that, and this is all clarification for the public, so there's no misunderstandings. That's all we're doing right now.
And just to clarify, the example that you just used on the pervious payment, that was a town council. That wasn't CRA.
Correct, same
Yeah.
issue, same rule applies.
Right.
It's looking really good, too. I'm excited. They
I stopped by
started the
and watched them.
project, and
Put the rock in underneath. Looked
And
good.
hopefully we'll move on to, once we prove this is a good project, we'll move on to other areas in our town that flood, and this will be a good way to solve it without having to acquire more land or do retention, and we can use that land to maybe increase tax base or just use that land for other things. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are watching it. I am.
Let's just make sure it works before we move it to anywhere else.
Exactly.
I want to see it work.
And really, that's why they did it there, because it's a small area. And even though Ms. Eberhardt had, had said she's seen it, it does work, but we needed to try it in our town and see, because that is a big flooding area right there. So if it works there, we can move forward.
Okay, I didn't mean to digress from CRA, just to make the comment that that example was a town council, but it applies to both, so we can go back to CRA.
Chapter 112 applies to both. That is correct.
Well, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions while we have our town attorney in front of us?
May I be excused, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Bert.
Is there any other public comment?
Hey, everybody, my name is Margaret Deere. I live at 1504 French Street, for the record. Pots are awesome. They're super fantastic. Congratulations. I know a lot of effort and a lot of heartache went into it. Now everybody wants to know when they're going on down South Main. The business owners down there are ready. They said that everything looks great. I mean, my phone started blowing up immediately when they got done. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. I know how incredibly painful it was and how much hard work and effort went into it. And Chief, I hope they don't become a headache for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Anything else? Hearing nothing, I'll move on to Keep Lake Placid Beautiful, please.
Bill Brantley, for the record, Keep Lake Placid Beautiful President. We are getting quotes back in. I think, I'm not sure if the town has received the quotes. Obviously, they're not coming to me. I don't know if we've received enough to start looking at them, or...
How did quotes go out? Are they not on the website, the bids?
No, so if I can, we had, previously, Councilwoman Hayes had said that if we were going to do these projects to try to stay local, so it was sent to TWQ, you may have to help, Ibanez and Robbins, so that's local. So we sent it to all three of them, and we're waiting for them to give us information back on what the bid would be, or what they would bid it at.
So we chose which locals to send to, even though there's a lot of local landscapers.
Correct.
Well, those are the only three,
Nurseries.
Of volume. They're the largest
Volume.
three that would be able to handle a project like this. No, we didn't send it to the guy that cuts lawn down the road. Mainly to people that do landscaping and large projects for a living. I said no, I just
Interesting.
came because I wasn't sure if anything
No,
came
they-
in, or we're going to try to
That we
set a
missed?
time to sit down and look at the quotes. I did get another paver quote. And I think Robbins, one time, some of them, Robbins broke down everything from installation to clean out to plan the plants. I told him we might need to break that up a little bit, because some people are just supplying plants or irrigation, or because we're going to have probably 4 different quotes. 1, as far as providing the plants, 2, during clean out, 3, installing and putting the plants in, and we have irrigation. And also we have pavers. So there's really kind of 4 aspects that some of them don't do all of it. Some will do all of it, but then to get the best price for the town, sometimes we might need to break those 4 or 5 different things out separately.
did we miss somebody?
Typically, fair and equitable bidding processes, as you put out the project, then you allow the various, there probably are some local landscapers. I mean, again, the guy that cuts grass, no, but there's that may have bid. And then, yes, you can give preference to local. You can kind of cut that criteria. That's just my experiences. And
So
fair
you're
and
saying-
equitable, you just put it out there that, how the size of the project is pretty sizable.
Right, so you want to do just a town RFP on
I
the
thought that's
website?
what we were doing, but
Right.
I guess that ship sailed. I thought that's typically what we do when it's over a certain amount. We go out for an RFP, we take a look at we describe what we want, the bids come in, and then they can decide local, you know? And it is good to give preference over local if it's a competitive price, but I think that ship sailed, so I don't want to disrupt it, but I thought that was just our bidding process, that we would go out with an RFP, we'd advertise it on the town website, maybe with Nextdoor, so that we'd get a broader array.
And we'd have got the same people.
I think we
would have
got,
gotten the same people. That's all there is in this county. I mean, you're used to a lot bigger venue. That's all there is here.
no, I think you have a lot of landscapers that also, I'm not going to argue with you, Councilwoman Hayes, so it is what it is, that's what we've done. I just am surprised to hear that's our bidding process, that we select who we go out to bid versus put out a request for quote.
We don't always do that. We did that this time. It depends on the project.
Is there a time frame as far as for bids to be in? Was that when you sent it out to them? I don't know how that process went.
I sent it out to them, and I did speak with each one of them, and so I told them that we had wanted to try to get it back as quickly as possible, but as you stated, it's basically going to be 4 phases, and it is extensive, so they needed a little more time. I plan to follow up with them tomorrow and ask them to have that to us within a week.
The 4 phases are the different parts of the overall
I
project.
think it was, well, if we can get, the thing is, things are kind of dragging on a little bit. The sheriff's department said, yes, they could help us with prisoners, but once it starts heating up and get warmer, they have grass to mow, things to maintain, stuff like that. So that would need to be, but I don't want to start ripping stuff out if we don't have the funding to finish the whole project. So we might have to pay for some of the rip out and removing all the mulch, all the layers and layers of red mulch going out, and probably half a dozen stumps that need to come out also.
What are the 4 phases?
I do not have that in
So as
front
far
of me.
as
just said the four
providing the
things, I think.
plants,
What is it?
providing the plants, planting the plants, and mulching, irrigation, and then I think pavers.
Right, and pavers. There was the 4.
So it was put out to the 3 of them as separately quoting for these 4?
It was put out to those, then I also, I have talked to some other people, I think like DC Irrigation might be pricing out just the irrigation, because Ibanez technically doesn't have a license to do irrigation. And then I have a paver company that I use that works for the Trim Run company out of the factory out of Arcadia. He gave me a price on pavers. I think Jose's going to do a price on pavers, and then TWQ. Well, Robbins Nurseries doesn't do pavers, so he probably won't give a price on pavers as far as that goes. So we don't have enough people here that can do all of it. That's the reason we're breaking up in 4 separate sections to where we can get the most competitive bid for our 4.
So basically, you're getting 3 bids on everything minimum is the way it's going to go into the different categories.
3 or more.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
But
Yeah,
we're
and-
selecting who we go out to get bids.
Yeah, and then we could hire multiple contractors to accomplish the entire scope of work. So maybe somebody for pavers and then somebody else for the plantings and stuff like that.
Right,
which
and
is,
I'm not speaking for anyone else, but like TWQ might say, okay, hey, I'll give you a discount on everything if you use me for all 4 phases. Well, we
Right.
just need to see what works, what's most financially feasible for the town as far as cost and what's the better deal.
But to that point, we have a lot more irrigation companies in town than DC. So we've reached out to DC to ask them to quote on the irrigation side, but we haven't reached out to
And if they look
Taylor
on the
and a
website, I
lot
know
of the,
TWQ will be pricing it, DC was gonna price it, I'm not sure who else the town subcontracts to.
I was just going to comment on just on the irrigation piece, because the irrigation is working down there. It was more of, when we get it
So
out,
we're switching
what
it
were
over.
those
So
parts?
hopefully
Yeah.
there's a pipe coming up in each bed. So they got to connect onto that pipe, run the poly pipe, and put jets by each one. Originally, TWQ was suggesting soaker hoses. From what I've talked to other companies, that's not the best, because you don't know, based upon volume, as far as leakage, it might be fine for now, but the first time someone plants something and busts a hose, versus having microjets that are visible and you can see if they're functioning and working. So it's putting the poly pipe in the beds and then run the microjets. And then it might have to downsize if we don't have enough irrigation or volume. We might have to change the head size of all the microjets after the fact, just to make sure we have enough volume of water.
yeah, I just like to say, I mean, all these contractors, I've worked with all of them before. They're all super capable of doing, the scopes of work we're talking about. When it comes to how to put it out the bid and, who to choose and all that kind of stuff, I mean, personally, being on the CRA, I'm looking to the town staff to do everything appropriately and according to how you do it and everything else. You know, so personally, I don't want to micromanage that process. I just, in the end, want to know that it's been done the way you need to do it, and then, you know, see what the total price comes out to on the different categories. So maybe see the prices in the end, you know, would be nice, but ultimately, I think you guys know what you have to do in order to accomplish this, and
And I don't know when the rest of the prices are coming in, but if we set a deadline for a week from today, and if we get on the website and say, okay, if anyone's interested, at least contact the town, and if they need extended time because of the short time, then we might be able to give them that. But I think it's something, if we want the sheriff's department to help us with clean out, we need to get that ball rolling to at least see, even if we can say, okay, is it going to be 40,000 or 50,000? Do we have the funding and money? And then at least get that first clean out section started. I just don't want to start a project without the end and cost in mind.
And Ken, just to piggyback on your point, I totally agree with that. And I would assume we have a bid process as part of our purchasing policies, so that should be what we're following.
Okay,
I
so
just
let me-
want it fair and equitable to a variety of suppliers and vendors that we have. Other words, we get told, I didn't even know about this, I would have been on that section.
So let me clarify a few things on how we got to this point. Just because I think that originally we were only going to be replacing the plants down there with the 15,000 from the pipe bursting project. So just to kind of put that in context. So we were not going to handle that. That was Keep Lake Placid Beautiful was going to basically go in, find out how much the plants were going to be. The project, as Mr. Brantley stated in our last meeting, is it evolved, because if we're going to do this the right way, then are we going to do it the right way, or are we just going to willy-nilly it and hurry it up through? So no, we want to, if we're going to invest in it, we want to do this the right way. So when we spoke, and it's been a back and forth, so just to try to put it in context, because he's working a full-time job, and then it was raining on us solid for, I don't remember how many days. So for us to even try to get some of this done quickly, it slowed down. So we're back here now because at the last meeting, he said, Charlotte, in order for us to really do this, we're going to need to phase it out. It's going to require more than we originally thought through our CRA meeting. So that's how we've kind of arrived here. We have no problem going out for bid and following the process. It was just at this council's direction, or this board's direction, was for us to keep it local. And so when we looked at who has bid before, like Councilwoman Hayes said, it's primarily been the three that we have named here. We have no problem going out if that's what, it's the pleasure of this council, however you want us to do it.
And if you feel better, if we give it another week or so and put it out like that, Ms. Charles, if you want to honestly do it that way, I don't think there's any issue with that.
And obviously, I don't think we need to wait to the next month's board meeting. We need to set something to come and look at the numbers and let you guys decide, okay, this is the vendor we want to use, these are the people, and let's kind of get it rolling. I think that needs to be a special meeting. And as far as brought up, yes, I run a business, and let me tell you, 2 o'clock's tough on a Thursday. You know, and for the residents and for the business owners, 5:30 on any way of the week is just, you know, Frank, I'm sure you're tough getting out of the store, you know, at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. I just think that's an odd time.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can attend meetings, but these are going to be limited with me coming at 2 o'clock on a Thursday.
So what do
it's
you
just
think?
something
Do you want us to go back out?
Right now, it's not a package deal. It's been broken into 4 different sections, which could be a package. And then that clearly opens it up to a lot more irrigation companies in this town, you know, a lot more that just do, you know, those specialty things. But I agree, these are the 4 elements. You can bid separate or you can bid a package. And then when it comes back, make the decision. So if it doesn't delay it, I mean, yeah, put it out there. And we've had bids out there for, give us a week, you know, here's the date.
So are we going to do like sealed bids? I know I've bid for the town council, building things for them, and it's a sealed bid. Everyone kind of shows up, we open the bids and take a look, and maybe in a week try to decide.
I'll leave that to staff on what the policy says. You know, that's all. Just follow our town policy.
Rachel, can you comment on that? I don't know that the CRA has to be in
Right.
sealed bids.
I'm saying I'll leave that to staff on the normal
don't think
bids.
so.
Whatever the town policy is on purchasing.
Yeah.
And for
We'll
bids,
follow it.
request for quotes.
Okay, I just think we need to set a timeline, and then maybe the day after the timeline's here, get a chance to look at them, because some might not include, like pavers. Are you using concrete pavers or clay pavers? Are you going to use what kind of irrigation? What kind of, we need to look at the bids before we say, okay, this guy has the best bid. We need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples by reading them side by side.
Yeah, I would think that you would have a set day and a time that the bid's got to come in, and they're in envelopes, and then, I don't think it's an open bid situation where you open them and say what the price is. I think it's got to go back to the back room. You guys got to analyze and compare and all that kind of stuff, and then call in the people that you think you can work with and, and review it. But I think a combination of that is probably the right way to do it. Like, you don't want to say a number and then let the other people know what it is at a meeting like this, right? It just needs to come to us after it's all analyzed, yeah.
Well, if it's under $10,000, it doesn't have to go to bid.
I don't think we need to. I think if it's over 5,000, we need to. At least for the citizens of Lake Placid. And also, as far as the pavers, we need to specify whether they're concrete or clay. Mm-hmm. Because there's about a $5,000 difference. As long as most people probably, I would think, would bid concrete, but
I would think concrete.
You think we should specify that going in, or should we just wait and evaluate
well, I do have a paver bid, and it's $6,000 difference for clay. So just specify concrete pavers, and then that way everyone will know going into it. I would think.
And I think that we should have the pavers sealed as part of the paver contract. So if they, maybe you already have it, but if you haven't, I think installed and sealed, should be what we have the paver.
How much sub-base needs to be on there too? Some people come in there and put quarter-inch of sub-base and say it's good, or you need 2 or 3 inches sub-base. We need to make sure we leave the bids, everyone's comparing apples to apples. So it might take a day to call back and get questions from everyone before we say, okay, this is the recommended bid through the whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just real quick in regards to the meeting's time, personally, I like it during the day, because if we do it at 5:30, staff has to stay here after hours, and they're already staying after hours for multiple meetings, multiple times a month and everything. So, and I think, and I do understand that, it's hard to pull away in the middle of the day, sometimes from work. But a few more times than what you're doing here is probably mostly done anyways. And
but it's also the people of the town. They can get here. If you're representing every business up and down the town, you tell them you're having it at 2:00 when they're open and they're doing business. I get the staff thing, but when you're dealing with thousands of people in the town, you need to make it more convenient for them, not just.
Yeah.
It concerns me that there's nobody here. Not except Margaret, of course. No, I'm not ignoring you, Margaret. but there's no one here, and I think that's part of it. And if this weren't my day off, I wouldn't be here either.
Okay, so would you comment on that? Because I know for me, it's hard to get away in the middle of the day. So if I can get it out like at 9 o'clock, what would you think that would be a good time?
I would think 5:30. If staff has to stay 1 hour later, it's just 1 hour. I don't think many of these meetings should take more than an hour. But I think the residents have the right to be able to come and not have to take off work.
So, Ms.
Which I'm
Vice Mayor,
okay with,
can I just make a comment that maybe we just table this, because for Monday's meeting, there's an agenda item to talk about doing 2 town council meetings a month. And then maybe we go back to, as that discussion takes place, that second one has the CRA back in it at a 5:30. So I'm just saying that there's another item on town regarding timing of not timing, but the number of town meetings, to try to reduce, our current 6-hour meetings down to something reasonable, and then have another town council meeting. I keep saying town council meeting. So maybe that discussion needs to be bringing the CRA 2:00 meeting into determining, do the 2 town council meetings, one of them is CRA as part of that agenda.
Like we used to do it.
Yeah. Well,
we did like once a quarter was a CRA part,
Yeah.
but now we could
Right.
do it that second meeting and do it every month.
right.
Yeah.
And our plan was that all the CRA things we wanted to get done because of the money, that let's start having these meetings, recognizing that we could go back to just making it part of the town council meeting and less frequent. That was our thinking, as we really wanted to push with the HDTV coming in, with a lot of the projects that we wanted to get done and some stability to take place. And we go back to not having a separate CRA meeting, but incorporating it back into the town council. So I'm saying on this one, let's just make it part of the Monday discussion on that agenda item for the town council meetings.
The other thing I think that you touched on is that we had said we were going to have the meetings every month right now, but technically we don't have to have CRA meetings, are only required every quarter. Because the realization is that some of these projects, once you get started, it's going to take time. And so that's why they're every quarter. So that is something definitely, we actually have talked about it staff-wise, just because if I'm going to sound like a broken record because I'll probably say this at a lot of meetings, but for each meeting that we have, I'm just going to hone in a little bit and pick on my clerk a little bit. So Madam Clerk, forgive me. But I've been a clerk before, and for 1 hour meeting, it's 2 hours minimum for her on being able to type those minutes. So every hour, you count at least 2 to 3 hours when she has to go back and listen. So when you're talking about a 6 to 8 hour meeting, her days now are being consumed by only meeting minutes. Only meeting minutes. So we need the meetings to be able to keep business going. But if I could just hone in a little bit, that the long-range goal is for us to go back to quarterly meetings, not have these every month.
Right.
Because we need to be able to keep projects moving and then also have the best use of our staff's time. So just to make that comment.
All right, so we're going to try to put it on the website as far as if any other RFP, and then try to have, in a week or week and a half, have a meeting to sit down and go over them so we can give the go-ahead.
Yeah.
But not a CRA meeting. Staff and you guys can.
So how does
do-
that work?
I don't think
Do-
we
does
need to,
staff
I don't
have
need to
the right up to a
decide.
certain dollar amount, or do you just kind of, people like Placid can't make this decision. You know, CRA actually has to meet and say, okay, yes, we approve these
Right.
vendors for these things, and then go forward.
Yeah.
We need to have a special CRA meeting just to go over numbers.
Okay.
I think we do too.
But we could do
Yeah.
that. That way we can allay her concerns about not putting the bid out, maybe that the way that she felt like it should have been, and then we can put that together and evaluate it. I don't mind a special meeting for that, make up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much, and that was very informative, and I appreciate your time, I really do. I really do. It's everything we do is more complex than we start out to do, but that's the way things work. So I think we're moving forward, and again, as our town administrator said, this is all new. I mean, we finally have enough money to do projects, and so you guys are the pioneers of the CRA, really, seriously, pioneers. So is there any motion that needs to be held, or?
I don't think so. I think we have consensus. Don't need a motion, do you think?
Okay, so we can have a special meeting to address what the findings are. So we're going to go ahead and move to the new business, CRA project. I forgot. Is there anything from the public? Thank you. Okay. New business, CRA project list modifications.
So we were reviewing the CRA project list to consider the adjustments to be able to meet the requirements for the Interlake project. I think that we should still go through this and look at it, because you may make a decision to go ahead and move some monies knowing that this is coming, or it may be something that you want to look at and then come back at our next meeting. So we were previously directed to focus on the downtown flower pots at Dow Hall renovation while the downtown revitalization plan is being developed. I don't know why, and Dow Hall renovations. So the current priorities have included the downtown flower pots, the flags, the banners, and the wayfinding signage, and the sidewalk improvements. The other projects have not yet begun, so this is allowing time for Central Florida Regional Planning to be able to come. They're doing the downtown revitalization plan, and when they come, they'll be able to give us some feedback on what our efforts should be directed towards. So one of the things that had been discussed was about our park benches throughout the community. And so we did obtain that information from Jennifer with the chamber. I think you all seen all of that. I love that there are that.
Actually, it was my husband and I that put the maps together.
Oh, you did?
And I was trying to go through my computer
To find them?
to find them, and I must have deleted them years ago, but it was he and I that mapped them out and got all the list of names, and it was like, oh.
Yeah, and I was just impressed with how many we have in Lake Placid. We have a lot. We have a lot. So when we went through that, the chamber has managed this project, and there's a total of 80 benches that we located that would fall under the park bench project. Each bench was sponsored and purchased by an individual or business, and the maps and locations are in the packet. One of the things when it comes to the benches that I wanted to point out, so we started looking at benches, trying to get an idea of if we replace the benches, what would they look like? And so this was one style and you can get it in different colors. So there's green, there is a natural color. These were just two I picked based off of the Lake Placid colors that we have. They are also composite, so the durability is there. Says that it actually has 50 years warranty on it, so I thought that was pretty good. And this is just an idea. These are the different colors that they come in. You can also change the frame color. I will tell you, I tried the frame color in white with this color here. It does not look good. Black seems to give it a really nice, sleek look. Yes, it really does.
It would match the streetlights, too.
It would, and I think it would tie it all together. Let me see. So this is what the order summary. Now, of course, the tax would come off. Doesn't include shipping. Some of the other things to consider when we do this is that there are the mount hardware kits that we would have to include. And then I didn't put it on here, but the other thing to take into account is that the benches were sponsored through sponsorships, so they've been paid for by residents. They also have the plaque on there. So when I priced it, if we ordered the cast bronze bench plaques, which I'm going to caveat this, that I don't know that we can order those through the CRA funds, the plaque themselves. It may only be the park benches with the mount hardware, but for us to replace the plaques, unless we can get them at a different, but they will put it on there for us, it comes in at $15,920 just to replace the plaques.
So can the plaques that are on the existing ones, if we're going to exchange, bench for bench, can we not take the plaques? Oh, sorry. If we were to exchange bench for bench, can we take the plaques off the existing bench and put them onto the new benches?
You certainly can, and I have to tell you
I know it's not as nice as what
well,
the other ones are.
that was exactly what I was going to say. Ken is not going to go for that. That was
Yeah.
honestly, so
Well,
you're suggesting it. I would say we could look at them. I think we
I
could look at
haven't
them and
looked
see
at
if
them,
there are
but
any
even
that
if they're
maybe-
not great now, but at least we step up. I realize we can't always get the Mac Daddy straight out the gate. Maybe we get part of it now, and then later we change or
and
something.
do something.
Yeah, so I think it'd be way better than what we have now, and I like what you chose. And the plastic lumber with the steel, I think, is a really interesting. I've never seen that before,
Where it has
but
it,
I
yeah.
think it looks good.
Okay.
Do all 80 need to be replaced?
Well, so
What are we
based off
trying to
of-
do? Because we've allocated 15,000, this is what, 80? What was?
based off of the plan, it says it was going to be in it would be a phased process. It wouldn't be just in this year. I just was going all in so you could see what the total amount was. If we replaced all 80, it would be up to your pleasure on where you want to start, how many you want to do. That would all be, that's your purview.
Yeah, and I think we could start, do a section, and then, or maybe some of the old benches get moved to parks, and get, the old ones get used in parks, and then we put the new ones, in downtown, in the right places. Now, the Bicentennial Park, I'd like to see the new benches, because it's in the historic downtown, so we want to keep that character. But I understand we just can't do everything all at once, so we do some this year, some next year, and over 3 years, we change everything maybe, and then use the old plaques for the sake of saving money now, and maybe later we change plaques, so.
And we're replacing them because they need to be replaced, or so we can be consistent in what they look like? I'm gonna rewind, before I go look at 80.
Yeah.
park bench. And also, Lake June Park has benches, and they're not in the CRA district, so that would be out of scope.
I think it's a character thing. I mean, I think the
It's
benches.
character.
Yeah, it's character. The character of the benches in the downtown right now, I don't think matches really what we should be shooting for in the downtown as far as level of, quality of what something looks like. And I'm not saying quality is so much of the material as much as the aesthetic look of it.
And that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
so it's
that's-
aesthetic.
That's where I'm coming from with wanting to change them. I just think it's, no offense, for the people who put them there, but kind of dumbing down our downtown. And I think we want to try and keep it as classy as we can.
So a lot of them could be then recycled maybe to the non-CRA district. Put them all around the police station. No, but, and
Or
then that
maybe the
becomes
ball
a phase-in
fields.
approach, because
Yeah.
you could do park at a time,
Yeah,
park
the
at a
ball
time.
fields probably could use a bunch of benches, so maybe we could, they shuffle out there.
The benches at Devane Park aren't really that bad. As I walk there, and even though it's usually dark when I walk, but they're not bad. They're, as Ken said, they're just, they're a very nondescript kind of design, and these are, they're ornate. So it doesn't make them bad benches, it just makes them not ornate.
I was going to add to that Alan had educated me on them, just because I do have this type of bench is one that's high, the composite is what I mean when I say this type of bench, because they last so long, they can get very costly. So in my experience, I cringed when I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to have to replace 80 of those. But he had said that those were some of the very first ones that came out in that material. And so they didn't have a color choice, they didn't have a lot of options. So they've been there for quite a while, and that's the reason why we ended up with the ones we had.
Yeah, they've been there so long that we didn't have good graphics in those days to make the maps.
This is a real long shot, but I wonder if you can buy the ends of the benches, and we can utilize the plastic lumber of the existing benches, but with new frames. I mean, again, that's a stretch if it's the right size and material, and if we can order those frames without the plastic lumber. But maybe we could utilize, the material of the existing benches that will last forever, and throw those frames away, but use new frames. But again, it's a long shot that would work out, really.
So
It has to be able to fit. It kind of slips in the side, because I use a bench every day at my driving range, and it's got to fit in the sides.
So,
And labor for this would be then a separate cost?
oh yes, because that was.
You're not going to have Alan put all these
Listen,
together, is he?
I was getting ready to say, they
Not
do not
again.
come assembled. They do not come assembled. None of it
Right,
comes
so we-
assembled, so you read my mind, because that was the other thing. You're going to hear me bring that up just because as we said, the CRA is in its infancy stages, but some CRAs, i.e. Avon Park, they are able to hire a CRA coordinator because it was built into their CRA plan. We did not build that into our plan. So anything that's being done is being done by town staff who are already severely overwhelmed. And so if we ordered 80 of these right now, I promise my guys are going to scream.
But
Unless
just
we
a-
go out for somebody to put them together.
A bench building party?
Maybe we can get volunteers for that. It's not that complicated.
I was
so.
thinking, what about the shop classes at the high school?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And then I love that, because then it gives them some vested interest in the community that they live, that they're going to school and growing up. So I like that. So there are options, just like to put it on the radar.
But we only put in 15,000 for this year, so 80 at once isn't an option. It would be, just rounding up 80 here for $80,000, so you're talking probably 1,300.
I think it's 40,000, right?
So we're talking
80 is 40.
15 this year.
80's 40.
What's that?
40,000.
Yeah, it'll be,
Oh, 38.8.
yeah.
No, and I agree.
So you're
Spend
basically
15
talking
this
20
year.
this year, so that can be the, pick the park, what's the first park, how many do we need? And that becomes the manageable.
This is the benches.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I left mine by accident.
Okay, and I live down there, I'm just off 27. There's got to be at least 20 benches in front of the college, and I am telling you, they are not used. They are just not used at all. And I
That's
think that
true.
even when we have events, is so far away from the events that people aren't sitting there and resting. So we have a few students once in a while, and maybe we were having homeless people use them, but that's it. And there's got to be, I think, at least 20.
Yeah, and I think we could leave the ones in front of the college for last and just work through the downtown first. And then, like you said, I do agree, we have a lot of benches in some areas that maybe we don't need, but maybe next week everything changes, you know, with Home and Garden Television, who knows? But I agree, we can leave those in front of the college for the time being, yeah, for sure.
No, I think that's a very good point, right? It's utilization. You know, where do they get utilized? And the ones that aren't, maybe they just need to get moved or, you know, clearly not replaced, so that we replace something that's never sit on. And then where is underutilized, like the ball fields or something like that.
I never see anybody sitting on the ones in Devane Park, even when, I mean, they may not be there when I walk, but, you know, during the day when you drive around, I don't see much. A little bit over on the library side, but not so much anywhere else. We could do, the ones that are in the middle of the circle, no. The ones on the perimeter, yes, maybe so, but not in the middle.
Mr. Hartzell said he does see some use at Johns Park and in front of the college. He has seen it. So just to hone in a little bit, just because remember the chamber they're the ones who manage this whole project, so we'll replace. But the other thing too is we've got to be cognizant that if we take it out, we've got to replace it because those benches have already been paid for. They've already been sponsored by a family with a plaque, so anything we take out, we've got to replace back. Just maybe a different way.
Yeah, and that was going to be my comment, just circle back with the chamber on what exactly was the agreement with the family, if there's any replacement or anything like that, just to make sure that whatever agreement they had, that we may be doing something that, you know, we're not violating what they agreed to.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that we need to hear from the public at this point, please.
She said, oh,
Thank you very much, Margaret Deere, again for the record. I would love this project if we had all the money in the world, and I agree that those new benches look fantastic. I hate to say it, they're basically a Charleston bench, but made with a composite. But I'm thinking about the sidewalk that we need, and that isn't anywhere near $40,000. I just didn't understand the impetus to put this as a priority on the top of the list. In addition, again, the question would be, did these people buy this bench for perpetuity? I'd have to ask the question when the chamber sold them, and is there not a reason that we couldn't resurrect that program either as another, I wouldn't dare try to throw it on the chamber, but as a Keep Lake Placid Beautiful project? I mean, is this really the best way to spend CRA funds? And that's just, again, if we had a boatload of money and we had, you know, a bunch of projects that had been accomplished, I could see park benches being on the list, but I'm not following this process.
Can I comment?
I'm on the chamber board, and I seem to recall they are one-year contracts. And they were talking at one of the meetings about Nicole making up a list of, excuse me, where they were with it and who had paid and who they needed to invoice and, you know, things like that. I think they're one-year contracts.
So they're billing every year for the park benches?
I think
No,
they're billing
no.
for the sign on the park bench.
No, originally, I think there was a mortgage on the chamber building, and this was a fundraiser to pay off the mortgage on the building. So it was a one-time donation. There's no annual re-uppance.
And for the life of the bench would have been my guess. And then when we talked about possibly as a way of flashing up Lake Placid, and there was some ideas that the merchants came up with of painting those benches when Keep Lake Placid Beautiful said, no, you can't paint them because they're resin, which I understand. But there was never any conversation about how those benches had to stay there, or if they were replaced, somebody else had to pay for them and put somebody else's name on it. It also brings up the question, because I know that the planters are sponsored, and I know that those are billed every year by Keep Lake Placid Beautiful for all of the beautification that's going on downtown. So I'm just trying to figure out, how is this park bench program different?
It's different. A group of us went together and sponsored a bench, and it was a one-time.
One-time thing.
Yeah.
And y'all get to have that bench forever and ever, amen. Even when none of us remember y'all, because we go around and look at the benches and the names and try to figure out who it was.
I
Okay,
know.
who are their people now? Who are these related to? Or somebody, because I said something about buying one with my dog's name on it. And when I asked about buying a park bench with my dog's name, it was recommended that maybe I buy a brick, because I didn't know that we had a brick program. And pretty sure the quote I got for the bench was $1,000.
Yeah.
Is my guess. So anyway, it's just my 2 cents.
There might be
Thank
two
you for
different types
listening.
of benches, too. There might be one that was done on the mortgage of the building, and there might be a separate one that they do yearly. It might be two different kinds. I'm not sure.
I couldn't hear you.
It might be two different kinds of benches. There could be one that was in perpetuity, per se, and there might be another that was on an annual contract.
I don't know. We paid once,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
In regards to your saying, why are we upgrading benches, we have other projects, but I mean, I think we could do a lot of things all at the same time, and I think we budgeted to do a lot of things all at the same time. So are they out there surveying for this future sidewalk? I see them out there surveying the path of the sidewalk you're talking about, at least some areas there. No? No, over by Stewart Park, behind Stewart Park. I just saw some surveyors there. I was wondering what they were surveying. Yeah.
Do you know anything?
No?
No?
I don't know what it is. Okay, anyways, but I do think we have budgeted for a sidewalk project separately of budgeting for this, but a sidewalk project's going to take a long time to get figured out, because that's got to be engineered. Park benches can just simply be purchased. So I think we should not do one thing because we want to do another. I think, we got a lot of things we should do, and we've already budgeted for a lot of things, and we hope to do a lot of things all at the same time. So I think we should do the park benches, and I also think we should do the sidewalk project you're talking about, which I think we set money aside for in the budget, which we did. Yeah, and I also think that we should be, hopefully buying a light fixture to test out, a down light, because I still get people complaining about not adequate lighting downtown, and it's sketchy at night. So have we, if I can ask, have we looked into those yet, or no?
No. So
Okay.
that was why I kind of put this on here. Is it up? Yes. With the current priorities, just because when we tried to prioritize based off of the list, these were the areas that we were told to focus on right now. The only reason why we're bringing up, like, as we've gone through this process, was Dow Hall, was because we talked about that we were potentially losing an ability to be able to rent that location out. So we started working through the Dow Hall renovations, which I'll show you pictures of that shortly. And then we brought this up only because it has come up in conversation about what were the plans for the replacement. In our CRA plan, for the 5-year capital improvement, what it says is that the CRA must approve the number of benches to purchase, the locations, and the design for each bench. And so that was why I believe it was figured that we would phase it out, and then it's over 15,000 over the next 5 years.
So could we, or should we potentially be making a motion to purchase, however many number-wise we can buy with 15,000, get them ordered and get them here, and that while they're in process of coming, where you're making up a plan, we're talking about where we want to put them, right? And maybe the next meeting, you come to us and say, okay, this is what we're thinking, the locations for if there's 80, we're talking, maybe 30 that we would buy or something, whatever the math is, and these are the locations, and then we could approve locations of where we do the replacement. So can we make a motion today?
Is that going to impede, so I'm looking at the chart you have above, and it says our current priorities, but we haven't talked about sidewalk improvement, and now all of a sudden we're jumping into benches. So I just don't want to continue to overload staff with now they've got to go out and they got to get this done. It's like, to what degree can they multitask with sidewalk improvements we said was a priority? So it's like, I look to Charlotte, you, on behalf of staff, is what is the right level of all these things that you can do, so that we don't start peeling from one and throwing it on, and we aren't doing the priorities that we told you before. Or we talk about those priorities. Flower plots, check. I don't know what's going on with banners, wayfinding signage and that. And
Can I
then
make-
I don't know
can-
what's going on with sidewalk improvement. So
Okay.
I just am cautious that we had a meeting, we had a motion, these are the things we want you to work on, and yeah, we got a whole bunch of other things. Is now the time to start pulling other things up? I look to you guys because this is on top of your day-to-day and all of the town budget items that we have.
So the flags, banners, and wayfinding sign, that has been paused because of Central Florida Regional Planning coming, and they're going to do the
Okay.
workshop. So that one's paused. We are looking at the sidewalk improvements, first being with the location down off of, in front of Councilwoman Worley's. And then the other location that we've been looking at is in
Well, no,
front-
that's not a sidewalk in front of her. That was the parking spot.
Oh, it was the parking
Yeah,
spot.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's,
Sorry.
sidewalk improvements we had talked about was the
Was-
museum.
Right, that's what I was
Museum
getting
and
ready
the
to say.
Chamber of
That's where we're
Commerce.
looking at right now,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out that portion.
And I guess, I mean, that's probably something, I suppose, that Dennis would draw up, right? In-house.
yes, he's
Just-
working on
He
that.
draws, okay, good.
Yeah,
So-
that's actually already in place. So
Yeah.
if we want to add anything else, we can.
Because wayfinding and signage has been
We've got these in
postponed.
Okay.
process. I like the idea of ordering them and having them here and then determining, because then what can happen is if you decide where that's at, it may be that we do it a little at a time. If they all get here, we're not going to put them all out at the same time.
Yeah.
We'll do it, we may have to do it in phases when staff can do it, and we could potentially offer it up for them to come on a weekend if they need to make up hours. I mean, there's things that we could do creatively if we
Yeah.
need to.
But do we all agree all 80 need to be replaced? I'm not there, but okay.
Well, there's, yeah. And, okay.
That was
we're
the
n-
decision when this was made. That was what
Yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah,
voted
yeah.
on.
And since we're not going to order 80 now, we're only going to order enough that we can afford for 15, so let me just do the math. So we're talking,
So we talk about which
40,000
park
was
we
for
start
80, is
with
that
so
right?
that we're consistent at
Well,
least.
42,000.
no, it was about 40,000 for 80,
Downtown
right?
as
Yeah, it's,
on this.
So that's,
So where would you
Yeah.
start, Ken? What are you saying? The Interlake and Main Avenue
Well,
benches?
I think what we're talking about is ordering some of them, and then once they come, we'll decide where to
well,
put them.
between
We're not gonna
ordering
do-
them now and when we install them, like the next meeting, staff can come to us and tell us. But, you know, we can direct where we think they should go. I haven't thought about it yet myself personally. I haven't driven downtown, so well, it makes sense to do it here or do it there, you know?
Well, it's just because the comment was it's optics, right? We want them to all look the same, and if we aren't ordering them for the areas to replace them, then they're not going to look the same. And I get it, it'll be over time, but
Yeah,
we budgeted 15,000.
yeah, yeah. So,
Okay, so we'll have a special meeting maybe in April to, once they get here, to decide where to put the ones that we've
okay,
ordered.
30 is how many we could order, right? So I think that maybe between now and next meeting, everybody drives downtown and gets your idea where you think we ought to be doing them. Like, are we going to scatter them through town, in which case they have less effect? Or we just take one area and we say the most impact will be if we change Johns Park all to these, you know, or something, or this street all to these at one time or something. And then we can kind of put our heads
I would recommend the high visibility areas to
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
first.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I agree. And not in front of the college.
Right.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for that. Somebody would like to make a motion?
All right, so I'll make a motion that we direct staff to order, generally speaking, 30 of them, because that will meet our budget of 15,000. If you have to drop it to 28 or something, that's up to you to do. But spend 15,000 we have budgeted for buying these benches that you showed, and just order them and get them here. Yeah,
I think we do have to pick a color.
okay.
Yeah. So it was black frame and,
Well,
So let's get a second on the motion to discuss it,
Okay.
please.
I'll second.
Okay, so now we need to pick a color.
Well, I think black on the frame myself. Is everybody kind of in agreement that the frame should be black? Okay, yes. I think everybody agrees frame black. Then, and then can you go back to the colors on the bench?
Should the colors coincide with
So
the
it's either
pots?
green or tan, is that right?
You think the colors should coincide with the pots?
That was kind of why I picked this one,
Yeah.
just so you could see it together. So
Yeah.
you've got that color, and then
Yeah,
there's
and
the
I'm
green.
afraid the green might might fade, you know, more
Yeah.
so than the tan. And like, if the
Yeah.
green fades, it'll show the fading more than tan will show the fading if it does.
And I'm going to drop down and show you all of the other colors so you can see them really quick.
All the other what?
The other
Colors.
colors, because you have
Okay.
all of these colors
Oh, I
here
see.
that
Okay.
you could go with. I just picked the green and the tan color just because it was the same color of the pots, and then the green because we're like Placid.
Green dragons.
Yes, correct.
So do you want to amend your motion to pick a color, please?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion to say frame black and bench boards tan.
Do you amend your second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, is there anything from the public on what we're doing?
I can make a comment right on the motion. I almost wonder if the motion be modified to direct them up to the 15,000, because you've got labor, you know, you said 15 or how many.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, you've got the labor that needs to go in there, so, I mean, again, I want to stay within the budget of 15, so maybe it's to direct staff to order the benches in these colors up to the budget.
Right.
Including labor, right?
Yeah.
So just say,
We would
Yeah,
still handle
amend,
the labor.
amend the motion to consider to spend in total $15,000 in benches or labor, or, you know, as necessary. You choose the amount of benches that works, right?
okay, do you amend your second, Miss?
Second.
Okay. Anything else?
Vice Mayor?
So now I just have two questions. Number one, the disposition of the old ones, what happens to those? And number two, is there going to be a maintenance schedule for these? Because those gray resin benches now, they get mildew on them, and they look like crap, and they might get cleaned before the Caladium Festival. No offense, you guys. But I mean, they get grungy. I mean, that's just the way it is, and we're going to get brand new ones, and are these going to be maintained any differently than the ones that we have now?
Well, you know, I do think, I don't think CRA can maintain them, right? Because we're not allowed, isn't that right? So, but,
Correct.
yeah, but I do think the next budget cycle that comes around with the town council, and I'm not a council person, but I would like to see town council start budgeting money for street sweeping, pressure cleaning sidewalks, things like that in the next year's budget cycle. I assume we don't have any money budgeted now, but for next cycle, I would really like to see some money budgeted for things like that, right? I mean, unless Keep Lake Placid Beautiful wants to do it, but somebody, I think, needs to be doing pressure cleaning, street sweeping. And when they pressure clean the sidewalk is when they would pressure clean these benches, I would assume at the same time. Yeah. probably
Agree.
once
That
a
should
year
be
pressure
part
cleaning.
of, it should be in there today. If it's not, it should be part of town maintenance.
Yeah, and I think they'll last until then. By the time we get these up,
Okay.
by the time next council comes around and can budget money for that, you know, I think they're going to be perfectly fine from now till then.
I think staff would like to make a comment, please.
So there was money set aside during the budget meeting for pressure washing or street sweeping. It was up to your discretion on what you wanted to do. As far as these benches, unless you're under a time constraint, I would suggest that you only get, say, one as a test to make sure these things aren't flimsy before we buy $15,000 worth. You don't want something that somebody sits on, even though it says commercial grade, that doesn't mean that it's not cheap.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not a bad idea. I think, though, that we still do our motion up to the 15,000, but that's a staff thing. You guys decide to get one, test it before you get the rest. I say leave that up to staff. That's
And when-
it's prudent. It's a good idea.
We can, as long as they come in small batches, we can handle the assembly ourselves
Yeah.
and place them out. It was, the last time they came pallet after pallet, and it was,
Yeah.
I just
no.
had a disdain for them because I'm the one that assembled them all.
Yeah.
There's nothing, but, yeah, otherwise, there's no reason we can't do it, just depending on the time of year and
Yeah, and that was a good recommendation.
regarding, this might be off topic, but regarding the lamppost top, I did get a quote. It's on my laptop. I don't remember offhand, but I want to say it was between $400 and $600 just to get a test one.
That's what I
If we
remember,
wanted-
yeah.
If you wanted to move forward with that, I have an old quote. I could get an
Yeah.
updated one, but.
I think we have money set aside, I mean, after we finish this item, but maybe we could discuss that item. I think we have a category set aside for it that we can use funds to pay $600 to buy one light and then put it out there and test it. We'll have to pay the labor to get it up there, and then
Okay.
let's test it.
Yeah, let's
But
close this
separate
one, and
item.
Okay, before we move in, let's just go ahead and finish this motion, please. So
Can
could,
I do
any other discussion on this
clarification?
motion?
Clarification of the motion, so I can read it back, so I can get it right.
Yes.
Direct staff to purchase the projected benches, including labor, up to $15,000, with the benches being black frame and bench boards tan.
Is
Is that the
everybody
right
satisfied
motion?
with that? Okay.
Yeah, and the quantity of benches, yeah,
Did we include
staff
the
will
quantity?
choose how many.
Yeah, we didn't include a quantity because
Right,
it's
okay.
up to
Yeah, you guys
$15,000
decide.
including.
Okay, that
to-
sounds good. I think that's fine, yeah.
Okay, could we have a call for the vote?
Board Member LeBlanc,
Yes.
Councilmember Eberhardt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
I just wonder, and I should have asked this question earlier, is this a single vendor, or does this have to go to bid?
I think
Needs to go to bid. It's
I
over.
think we can talk about that after, but let's just vote. If you're voting no, and then we'll vote, and we'll go back to it. I don't-
Okay, so I will say yes to the motion, but, and to the dollar amount, but if we're going to choose this vendor, I think that has to go to bid, because it's going to be over the 10,000.
But if you're getting straight from the manufacturer, how do you put it out to bid? I mean, because they make this, maybe nobody else
I
makes
think we
this.
just need to say yes or no, and then we'll
Yeah.
bring it, if somebody wants to make further comment, then we have to come back to it. So are you voting?
And I'm going to say no to the motion because of that.
Okay, so I don't think Ms. Charles voted. Did she vote?
She hasn't been called on yet.
I haven't finished calling. Vice Mayor Worley,
Yes.
Councilmember Charles,
So I'm in the same situation as Councilwoman Hayes. And the only way I would vote yes would be under the assumption that we follow the purchasing policies of the town, which is anything over 10,000 requires bid. So I will say yes, but it's assuming that we're going to follow, not that, oh, if we go to the manufacturer direct, we can do that, because there might be multiple suppliers that can do that.
So does a yes vote assume that manufacturer?
Let me
Yeah,
just,
a yes vote assumes that
Da-
manufacturer.
Charlotte, I mean, it's over $10,000, right? Which requires a request, it's a bid.
We can go out to bid, I just don't know that we're going to have anybody bid on this.
But that, well, or this
I
company
mean,
would.
yes, we can go out to bid, I just don't know that we're going to get this.
There may not be bidders, but there are alternate suppliers that have similar product.
Correct.
So,
Was that a yes or no?
It's a yes, but it's to follow the town purchasing policies.
If we can vote like that, then I'll go to yes.
Yeah.
But I'm still hung up on the same thing as Ms. Charles is, that if we're going to go to bid on plants, we're going to have this big consternation about plants and irrigation and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, we're not going to do the same thing for benches, that's not right. We have to be consistent, okay? So then, if we can vote yes on the concept and go back and figure out who's going to actually provide the product later, that's fine, but I can't vote yes on this motion if it includes that one place that we've looked for benches.
Doesn't our policy also say that if we end up with a single source supplier, then we have to justify that, and that has to be approved?
Yes.
And I mean, maybe that's what this ends up with. It's a single source supplier because nobody else does it. But at least we, as the council, we asked that the policies be followed, and we voted in that way. And then that single source supplier documentation you have to do with approval then is sitting there for an auditor or any FOIA request that this is what we
I
did.
think I have a solution. This board, in this CRA project list modifications, if I could entertain a motion that would address this forever, to just go ahead and say that you'll make a motion to follow town policies in all purchases, in all manner. The CRA will follow the same purchasing process that the town follows. You could just make that motion, and we have all this discussion, it's done.
I'm not going to make that motion because I think that's part of our oath of office that we'll make sure that the town policies are being followed, so then to make a motion.
I'm just saying the CRA will adopt the same policies as the town of Lake Placid. Can we do that?
I think it's part of the charter, isn't it?
You can do that, but you can't do it now because you have a motion on the floor.
Well, we voted.
You're going to have to either
We
complete
already
the...
voted.
I don't know if we're done voting.
But not everybody voted, and we haven't decided whether that motion passed or not.
I think we did all vote, though.
I thought everybody voted.
What's,
I'm sorry. Okay, let's continue the vote, please. I thought we voted.
Councilmember Hartzell,
Yes.
Does that complete the,
yes, I know.
did you vote? Yeah, okay.
She seconded.
So, just clarification, Councilmember Hayes, were you a no?
I'm still going to be a no.
Okay.
She's a no.
And then Councilmember Charles, you were
A yes?
a yes. So the motion did carry.
So if this CRA board would like to make a motion that we follow the town of Lake Placid purchasing policies, period,
In all purchases.
in all purchases,
Bidding process and all.
why don't you make the
instances.
motion?
Okay.
As long as it has to be over 10,000.
So I make a motion that the town of Lake Placid in all purchasing
CRA.
for the CRA's generated purchases follows the town policy regarding purchasing, and bidding, projects and so on, yeah.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, the discussion.
That would assume that in that policy, that it is in the policy that anything under $10,000 does not have to go to bid. That is part of the policy, as I recall.
Correct.
Yeah, yes, and I'll... okay,
Correct,
I'm
and
good.
also the policy has that people that are doing business in town can win the bid even if they're over the highest bidder.
Yeah,
So
there are percentages and
there is a
stuff.
percentage, and all that's
Yeah.
included in the town policy.
Yeah.
So this takes away all of that. We have the $10,000 rule, we have everything included that we follow the same procedure.
Yeah.
So everybody
Going forward.
Okay, so is there anything from the public? Okay, any further discussion? Please call the vote. Sorry.
I think that the town attorney should look at that. I don't know if that's something that we're modifying in the plan, the CRA, or not. I mean, I'm fine with going ahead with the motion, but I think at the same time, we're making a motion on something for the CRA. Is that supposed to be in the CRA document? I just leave that, Charlotte, up to you and the town attorney.
I think if I could just clarify.
Because to me, it's assumption that we're doing that, so.
Well, that's where I'm at.
That's where
We're
I
going to
didn't think a
follow
motion
all
was
town
needed.
policies regardless of whether it's
exactly.
this board
Exactly.
or the town council. We're following the policies.
Exactly.
I think just, again, because we had said we were going to try to do things local when it came to the plants, this was to get an idea on what you want, and then we can go out and follow the purchasing. We've got the color, we've identified that. We know that we want composite so that it lasts longer, and that was primarily what we need. In order for us to go forward, we need to know what. So we don't have to, this was just this design, and then I also looked because they also have, there are 4.7 on their star rating for this. And so that was part of the reason why this one got picked.
And Charlotte, I assume you've looked, this wasn't the first one you guys looked at. You guys
No.
looked at all kinds of them.
Yes.
Looked at price on different ones.
Correct.
Different materials, different
Style,
everything. So-
different things.
And so, effectively, you have price shopped this to get to this one here. So, I mean, you know, you can't expect, I mean, unless there happens to be 3 people doing exactly the same thing as this one, it's hard to put it out to bid, you know, and really it just involves looking at the price from the 3 online, you know, if that were the case, but, yeah, I think the main thing is that you just follow your policy, which you would do anyways, and you always do based on any purchasing the town of Lake Placid does.
I think that Board Member Charles is just asking you to, in addition to your motion, to amend it to include the town attorney's review that this is appropriate.
Actually, I'm saying I don't think a motion's needed because it's understood that we follow the policy. But
I agree
if
that-
somebody's
with that, too.
comforted by doing that, that's a whole
Well, we spent a
different.
lot of time discussing this. I just wanted to say, okay, if we're going to discuss it every time we do a bid, let's
Yeah.
just go ahead and put it out there and say, this is
Yeah.
what this board wants to do. If you don't think it's, you know, fine, then just, we already have a motion and a second, so unless it's withdrawn, we need to vote on it.
All right. I don't feel we need to do it because I feel the town of Lake Placid is already going to do what they have to do, you know?
So you're going to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, so unless somebody says, no, but I want to do this, you know, I'd say we withdraw it, so. I'll withdraw my second. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the motion is, and the second is withdrawn. Okay, let's, anything else on new business? Okay,
On what? On benches? You're moving off
Yeah.
of benches, okay.
Right, so benches are done. I would say one thing is, when you get that one bench and you put it together, any chance you could just stick it in the corridor, the hallway here, and then give us a heads up that it's here so we could look at it ourselves? You know, there's a big difference between seeing something online and feeling it, you know? So if you're going to get one, I'd love to do it, and then if, you know, for some reason, we all think it's cheap and cheesy, you know, and rattly or whatever, then maybe we could revisit it, right? I don't want to make a motion for that, I just want to, yeah.
okay. All right, anything else on the new business?
But when you say
On
new
old
business,
business?
like lights,
I'm
is
sorry,
this
old
where we
business.
would talk about, okay, old business, yeah.
No, I said anything else on new business, so that was new business
What-
benches.
Where are we?
Yeah,
We're
because,
to old
I mean,
business.
I would like to talk about lighting. I mean, if,
Yeah.
Okay,
because I
that's
think
fine.
lighting came up very strong in those workshops that we had on signage about lighting. And I mean, and it was brought up, like even during the Christmas parade, and I was one trying to take a flashlight to go from the women's club across the street to the Masons Lodge because it's just so dark with the trees. Main Street is extremely dark, and it's dangerous trying to walk at night because, you know, either one, there's no sidewalks, or two, you can't find the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there, as the next priority, you know, sidewalks is important to me, but lighting, I think, needs to be considered.
I think we need to order 1 or 2 of the lights that, you know, staff is recommending for downlight. You know, maybe we install one on Interlake on a sidewalk, right? And maybe we install one on Main Street in the middle of the street to see how it's going to do. And then, so what we'll need is to order 2 lights maybe, and then we'll have to pay whoever we use for electrical work to install those. And then we can all go out and look at it at night and see if we think that's the light. If it is, then determine how many lights we can afford to buy installed this year.
Now, is this gone out to bid too?
Well, again, this, I guess
I
it
mean,
de-
we
it
have to put it
depends
on the website, we have to put it on Nextdoor, we have to, if we're going to do
But-
it for one, we have to do it for all.
But this is what I don't know if it's being understood here. When you go online and you look at all the options for lights, it's, if you're buying from a supplier that's buying from a manufacturer, then you can go out to bid and you can get multiple people to bid it. If you're buying it from the manufacturer direct, then, you know, how do you get multiple bids? I mean, you've sorted out the lights, you've gotten to the manufacturer light that you want to try. So not always do, at least, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you can't always go out to multiple bids if you're going straight to a manufacturer, right? You've done all the due diligence to figure out the one that's affordable in the style you want, that you think you'll be happy with. I don't know if you could put it out to bid unless you want to hire someone to buy it, and then you're just making your price higher.
We have a number of electrical companies in our county. How can we say that, well, we're going to buy our lights online, but we're going to go and have bids for the flowers and the irrigation and everything else. We're gonna have bids and on Nextdoor and on the website and everything else, but we're not gonna do that for the lights. We can't
Okay.
do that.
Then what you
And
could do
be,
is.
and be honest with
Yeah.
people.
Then you could pick the light, and you can get 3 electricians to buy that light and give us a price for that light installed.
Yes.
As opposed to, I mean, I'm a builder, so I do things as cheap as I can, so I buy it from the manufacturer, and then I pay someone to do the labor to install it. If we want to pay the guy to buy it and install it, you know, it's just gonna be a little more expensive, but we could do that. Sure, you guys decide how you want to do that.
So if we're going to look at the lighting and streetscaping, because that's what it falls under, sorry, I have to remember we're project. So we have to identify the design and location. So this is what the council is or the
Yeah.
board is tasked with. You would need to identify this so that we can come back at our next meeting if this is the direction that you're going. We already did a downtown walkthrough, and that's how we started with the streetscape plan. Streetscape plan does not include lighting. It was only focusing on the plants and things of that nature. And so once you tell us which area you want us to focus on, there's $20,000 that is slated there for right now. Then we will go out for either our bids or our quotes, and then it'll be up to this council to make that decision.
Okay, so do you, well, I mean, right now, we're just trying to get a sample to try it and see if it works. Just like buying one bench to make sure the bench is quality, we just need to pick the light. So do you have a light that you could show us that you were looking at as a down light at this point, that we could look at on the screen?
I have a picture of one that I got a quote for. We
Yeah.
don't have any on hand. It was.
Can we look at that now, or it's not available?
It's.
Probably not,
I don't
just
have it
because he
with
wasn't
me.
prepared for this
Yeah.
topic today.
Okay.
That's why if this is the route we want to go, then y'all can vote on that for staff to focus on this one. He can gather the information, and then you all do your downtown look-through on where you want us to focus on, because 20,000 is what we'll have to work with. Bring that back to our April meeting, and in the April meeting, then we can get our marching orders so we know which way to go.
Because
Okay.
I would like to do it this way and see what you found. I don't want to just approve something without getting in kick the tires or look at it.
And I've already done the lighting study, I just haven't printed it out or done anything with it, but I still have the reading, so I can provide that.
What is that from, Nell?
I walked the town, down Interlake, down South Main, down North Main, and got light readings at various different places, used the light meter I borrowed from the county.
Okay, okay.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion to direct staff. I think we just tell the staff to please bring it to our next meeting, information on the lighting and some samples, some pictures, some ideas. If there's somewhere around, maybe in Sebring or Avon Park, that you know that there are some, maybe you don't. But if you can tell us if they've used something that we need to get, you can let us know, and then we can go look at it.
I'd be interested in Councilwoman Hayes has done some, what I would say is a very needed study,
Analysis,
and
yeah.
especially with, what did you call it, the light meters and that, so she will know in each area where that's going to be dim, where it's not. I mean, that is valuable information, I think could also be used at that meeting, because as we, I appreciate all the research that you can do, and also your recommendations on, what lights we should consider. But then this will help where we should start with testing a few to see, is it really going to meet the need that we have? But I guess as we do priorities here, and again, sidewalks is important. So if we touched on something's going on with Park Avenue, Park Street, I still never get those right. And then we jumped benches ahead, so it's, to me, I would like to put then lighting in your next priority bucket.
Yeah, I agree with that. And can I pass this around for people to look? I mean, I looked into the lighting before, and I have a light fixture type that's a down light, kind of that what I would like to see, generally speaking, something like this. So I can give it to you. And then this here is a bollard light, so like in Johns Park or places like that where we have paver walkways or concrete walkways, and we want to add lighting, instead of adding an expensive, powered light, they do have these solar bollards, you know, so if we want, we could also get a solar bowler, try it somewhere and see if it's worthwhile as a cheaper way than doing a hard-powered light. But, so I don't know if you guys want to see this, or if I just give it to you. and then,
Why
you know.
don't we give it
So
to
that first picture that you held up is virtually identical to the one that I have the quote on.
Great, awesome,
So
great, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is being passed around and will be distributed to Town Administrator. Can you just send that out so, okay, everybody knows that it's coming and it's going to be distributed to all the board?
So what I'm wondering is, as opposed to punting this for a month, the light that I have there, he said is the exact type of light, you know, which is solid LED and shines down versus up. I mean, can we show that to everybody now and maybe make a motion that says that you guys can buy, you know, one each of these, or maybe we don't want to even go bollards right now, we just want to focus on lights, fine. But maybe we can make a motion to approve you guys ordering one light, well, going out to bid to have, you know, 3 contractors buy the light instead of us. They buy it and install it if you want. And can we do that so we don't have to lose a month? or-
No, because we don't even have an idea of the price or anything, so I don't.
There, but we're going out to bid.
The other thing
Right.
is we didn't list lighting on there.
Oh,
I
on
mean,
this agenda? So we can't do it? Okay, I
It's-
got you.
it's-
Okay.
I think we didn't really see it down here. If you think.
Secondly, well, the style of the downlight, not the bollard, I don't think that's in keeping with the style of the benches. So is it feasible if we just bought new globes? Are these globes too old that they're all,
No, they don't make globes that reflect, well, I mean, they do make them, but the ones that reflect downwards towards the light, what we're looking at doing is changing the head on the existing antique lighting post that we have, and that makes our options extremely limited unless you get some that completely change to a flare-out
yeah?
and like farm-style lighting with those half domes. The only downside to this style, they do last a very long time, but it's basically ran off of a circuit board. So if they go out, you need a whole new fixture. You can't just change a bulb like we could now if there's, say, a lightning strike or one that's hit.
But is part of our problem with poor lighting because the frosted globes aren't letting the light out?
That's possible.
No,
I don't think the globes will ever let the light out. You know,
Well-
I don't think that this is how you shine light straight down, you know, versus going out, right? Because right now, I mean, the globes are just shining on the trees and the rooftops. Well, we need, you know, our poles are tall. You know, I mean, maybe if we had shorter poles, we'd be better off, but you know, we don't want to change all the poles to shorter poles at this point. You know, so our better option would be to maybe just change the tops. I realize that this top is not real traditional in style. The poles are, the top's not. So we might get this, put it up there and say, oh, we love the light, but we hate the fixture. You know, which I get, it doesn't jive or something. I don't, you know, and if anybody else maybe wants to look and try and find what they can find, I tried to see, could we get tops to go on top of the things with, you know, reflectors that go down, and it's not an option. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't find any other way than this. Now, if somebody could find these lights somewhere and then tell everybody, we could all drive somewhere and look at them in a downtown, that'd be great, you know, too. I mean, maybe that's a
they
different
have some
option.
similar in Raceway parking lot.
Where?
And where?
Raceway gas station, parking lot.
In Lake
that's-
Placid? In Lake
in
Placid?
Lake Placid, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's not exact, but it's similar where it has the light up top and,
Yeah, so maybe we
down.
take a month and we just figure this out, you know, cool with that. And,
I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, and also keep in mind when you're looking, though, because it will come up for our banners when we get to that point. Remember, we have the poles that have the lights that with the
Yeah.
banners and things of that. When we're going through that process, we've got to make sure that it's all going to go together. Yeah.
yeah,
That was all.
yeah, okay.
And just, Charlotte, on that note, can you brief us, what's the timing of the banner and the signs and that? I know we had the workshop, because I'm looking at, we're already 6 months into the budget year, and we've got 20,000 for signage and 10,000 for banners, so we got 30,000 sitting there.
It's probably going to sit there.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, only because part of what Ms. Riddell, our planner, has tried to hone in a little bit is that it's not something that we bring before council, we look at it, and then it just changes the next month. If we go through the real process, it can take 4 to 6 months at a minimum. So we're just now gearing up. That's why some of these items we wanted to look at, because the reality is it's not going to happen in this fiscal year. It's not. So then what else can we do that's that low-hanging fruit to go ahead and use some of the money that's there? That's what we've kind of been trying to look at, and we obviously do at the pleasure of this council. So however you want us to move it. But, and I don't want to jump ahead, but since you brought that up, because that's where we've been looking is, so for the 23-28, our CRA total expenses is at $237,179, and you'll see this in our report. It's on page 7 in our annual report. But our actual expenses that we have spent right now is $22,812. So we've not made we're moving. We are moving because we're seeing things happening right now. But we really have, in our CRA revenue and our expenses is, right now, we're at $222,641.09. So we do have money to do things. So what do we want to do? So maybe that looks like that we're looking at our project list, and it's something that we've got on here right now for this year, but we want to move it to another project. Well, we just shift the money, but when do we actually change the project? It would be when we come back to our budget session, our budget time. Am I saying that correct, Eva? Or with our CIP?
When you want to move it from year to year, you're going to
Correct,
do
we
that
do
with
it-
CIP.
we-
But you can, within the budget year, what the projects that you just planned, you voted on. You can say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and change our project. We're not going to do that project right now. Let's move those funds to this project.
Right, so we got
Doesn't even have to
flexibility.
be on the list of projects you're over, it could be a different project.
Hey, Rachel just does a budget amendment, so we
But
do a budget amendment.
This is really more so than not just it's not really on CRAs, it's not a budget amendment.
They're very
looking at
different.
Project specific.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a project specific, so you can't be real broad. You gotta say, we're gonna hone in on lights, or we're gonna hone in on benches.
Yeah, or
So it is
sidewalks.
project
Yeah,
specific,
well,
not budget
yeah,
specific.
and we still have landscaping, we don't know what that's going to cost, so
Correct.
that might be a place we want to shift something to. Okay, so there's nothing to vote on with this, lights. I will say, the flower pots look great. I mean,
Here, I've got 'em.
everybody is saying how great they are. Yeah, and I appreciate you guys have put a sign out there telling people this was CRA money. I thought that was a good idea, yeah. And I think, the pots are so successful, so the question becomes, is there other places that we want to do them, right? And so anybody have any thoughts on that? Somebody?
How much was like each complete section, right? The pavers, the pot, the flowers, because there's 6 of them there, right?
I think it was
Is there a
6
ballpark
areas,
number of,
I don't have that. I didn't.
and the reason is
bring that. Yeah, I don't
maybe
have that.
going further is, we were just told South Main is interested in continuing it on. So, I mean, that could be something that we could say, we've already got those done. We know the template.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to put, and I don't know what the number, if it's 4 or 6 more, and run it down South Main to maybe like home and office or the gym?
Yeah.
Harry,
And then that way you get Main Avenue and you kind of continue it, and it looks great.
I think it was about $10,000, if I remember, for 6 of them. And if it were me, I would love to see us spend another $10,000 that we're not going to spend somewhere else we thought
Right.
we'd spend this year, and repeat the same project south of Interlake and do 6 more pots and 3 more sections south of Interlake on Main, because I think it came out so well, and people down there seem like they're asking for it, so.
the only thing I had, that I wanted to ask the staff is because we took boxes out. Remember, there was already something that was there with
Yeah.
irrigation.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at, is there irrigation that way?
I think there's boxes there.
And how many boxes do we have there? But there is irrigation? So in your opinion, if we went that way, how many would we do? if you just had to,
Yeah, all the way down to what, home and office. I think, you know, maybe we could go towards home and office, maybe we get to home and office with 6. But I think, you know, maybe we make a motion to do 6 more south of Interlake, and, you know, just similar locations based on the islands, right, between the streets. And, you know, and then you guys do the bidding process that you would do normally, you know, to do it. You know where everything has to come from now and how to do it. But,
I mean, we can do that, just keep in mind that we've got to count in the pavers and everything that was done.
That's what I was saying,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what was the total
Yeah.
for each of those?
yeah, and I think it was about 10,000 for pavers and the 3 pots, you know. Now,
Yeah. Yeah. Each spot,
no, we,
yeah.
oh, yeah, because we separated pavers from flowers and pots,
Yes.
did we?
Yes.
So it was actually $20,000 divided by 6, right? Yeah, yeah.
He's
That's-
saying
that's true.
28.
I was going to
No,
say it's more
it
than,
wasn't 28.
That's where you
I don't
bid
have my numbers in front of me.
28.
For 6? It's
Because
almost
we had
5,000.
approved, in front of us, we approved 2 contracts for like 10,000 each generally. They weren't over 10, because remember, he came down on his price, right? So that we wouldn't,
I don't
you know, we could do it, make it happen before the home garden thing hit, which happened. So, I don't know what else there would have been to add into that. I think you guys added one more thing. You did the light pole, the flag pole. That was separate and added, I think. Yeah, that was added after the fact, so that was a different contract. So it was, from what I remember, 22. But
When we send out this light, we can send those, the invoices. We literally
Yeah.
just got
Yeah.
all of that.
yeah, and in the end, the pots that were chosen, I think, worked out great because they got the reservoir. So I think they're filling the reservoir and putting sprinkler in each one. So the reservoir becomes a backup in case our sketchy irrigation fails us in some way. There's a backup plan. So I think it really worked out well, those pots. And, yeah. Oh, and the thing we're missing, though, is I agreed that I would maintain them until next budget cycle, the 6 that are there. But, you know, who's going to maintain the 6 south of Interlake? Because I'm only doing the ones on the other side. So we'd have to think of how they're maintained until next budget cycle, right?
You're talking about whenever we put everything down Interlake? When
If
we put the plants back in?
yeah, if we do the next, if we go south of Interlake Boulevard, who's going to maintain those 6 locations until the next budget
He's
cycle?
maintaining.
How about you?
First year,
Yeah.
so not-
How about you? You kind of got the hang of it now. Let's go on down a little farther.
I don't know if my flower people have enough capacity to do, you know, more, so I don't know. I mean, they shouldn't need a whole lot initially, right, when they first get planted. And it's only 6 months before the next budget cycle where the town can budget it in.
Okay, so I don't know, were you guys wanting to do a motion to go ahead and move forward and move that money out of one of the other projects into putting South Main flower pots? So if you want to make a motion, and then
Yeah, but we
also
have to
include-
identify where we're going to take it from, not just somewhere.
Can we take it out of the 32,000 for septic to sewer, since nothing is on the horizon?
That's a good point. Yeah, because we're not ready for that yet.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
Can you help me on this sheet? Where is the flower pots? I've gone through it 3 times. I was trying to see what we budgeted for that, and you're saying we spent 28,000. What line item is it under? I don't see it at all, that's why. What? Where is it on this?
There's a back and a front.
Where?
Back and front.
And it says downtown flower pots, it's on the top of one of the pages.
Oh, you're on that one. I'm on this long one.
Yeah, that's, I'm on that.
What do you have it on?
You
She
should have
found
2
one.
long ones.
Downtown flower pot.
What after what? Is it downtown? Where is it on this one? Where do you see it on this one? You were holding this one up.
Here, look at the.
It's right on the screen.
There's
I just put it
two.
on the screen. So it's right up.
You should have two pages. You should have two long pages.
Is there 3
30,000.
pages?
No, but there's a back.
Gotcha.
Oh, you found it, okay.
So 30,000 and we spent 28. Is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. So I agree, septic to sewer.
Yeah, because I think there was more money in the flower pots than we used on this project, and we were going to take some of that money to do Interlake, am I right? Or do we take it out, Interlake out of a different place?
That was from the pipe bursting project.
Right.
When the pipe bursting was down there.
And then we were going to fund, we figured we were going to have to fund some money on Interlake in order to do the...
To do this, correct.
Yeah, and that came out of some category here.
We were going to have to make that decision, and that's.
We
where-
haven't done it yet.
Correct, and that was
Okay.
why Mr. Brantley was coming, because he had hoped that he would have the
Yeah.
quotes.
Okay, and we still have a lot of categories we're not going to spend money by the end of, I mean, we've got Dow Hall Boulevard, that park there, parking lot, stuff like that. I mean, we're not going to get to a bunch of that stuff, and there's some good money there. So I would be happy to make a motion to repeat the 6 locations with 3 flower pots on paver, like we did north on Main, repeat that south of Main in 3 more blocks, 2 per block. So I would make a motion. Sorry?
And include maintenance for a year.
Oh, but we can't maintain it.
Oh, that's right.
I'm not hearing you.
Let me ask you, she brought up maintenance. Can we, we'll put it out to bid, those 6. Can we put it out to bid, and in the bid, they have to maintain it for a year, or we're not allowed to put maintenance into the bid?
Do we have to put that out to bid, or can it just be a continuation of the current contract?
Which
The
I'm
current-
okay
what we
with
did
that.
out-
Again, I
Are
personally
we
think
okay with that?
the town decides how to
Yeah,
deal with
they-
bidding.
Put it to them.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can do maintenance again, but
Yeah.
all of these items that we're doing are very important for us to make note for when we do the budget this year. We've added a lot of beautification, and it's only as good as us putting in our operating budget to maintain it. So, Alan, Harry, hold us to that. We would expect to see maintenance increase in the budget because of all of the beautification taking place downtown. That has to come from our general fund
Yeah,
operating
and
budget.
hopefully, I mean, I'm just saying this, I'm not on town council, but I would hope the town council would look at putting out the bid to a contractor to maintain,
All of
Interlake and Main Street, flowers, 1-year contracts. And if you feel in the middle of the contract they're not doing a good job,
Yeah.
cancel their contract.
Yeah.
I think that's the way. I don't think it's putting it on them. It's putting on them to keep an eye on the contractor who's been hired to do it myself. Yeah, that's okay.
And the only thing I don't know is, we did 6 pots for 6 blocks. I don't know how many, you'd kind of want them to be uniform versus cram the same 6 into a shorter distance and that. So it would almost be whatever the...
I think it's 3 blocks, and we'll do 3 blocks.
Whatever,
south of
yeah,
there.
so whatever the matching,
I think it will match very well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a motion that we repeat the 6 pots we did north of Interlake on Main. We repeat it south of Interlake on Main for 3 blocks, 2 per block. And we use the funds that are right now allocated for,
Septic connections.
septic to sewer connections, which we don't appear to be using at this point. We use that $32,000 is the money that we allocate to pay the cost of this work. Obviously, only what you
need all
need.
32,000?
No.
No.
Well-
Just that's the category. We'll take that.
Take it out of that.
Yeah. They'll do it as cheap as they can, and however they deem fit, using their purchasing process. But that's the funds, so I don't know if we take the whole funds and transfer it in category.
Okay, well, let's get the motion in a second, and then we'll
Yeah,
discuss
yeah,
it, okay? So,
Yeah.
can you repeat your motion?
Second.
Can you repeat the
And it was
motion?
complicated listening to how many pots and different pots, so you want to duplicate South Main. You want to duplicate on South Main the same I don't know, I got tell me how many pots
Yeah.
and where you want to put
Okay.
I don't think we need to say anything
you're
about
right.
pot.
Maybe
I'll,
to
yeah, so
duplicate
I'll
the-
say let's,
Say to duplicate the North Main beautification
Beautification.
project
yeah, on South Main
on South Main.
for the first 3 blocks
for
south
the
of
first 3
Interlake.
blocks south,
Yeah,
funds to be allocated
From-
from the 32,000 sewer to, sewer.
Septic to
yeah,
sewer.
septic to sewer.
That makes
Yeah,
sense?
category, yes.
Okay.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I did.
Okay.
Ms. Eberhardt, second? Okay, now discussion. Is there any discussion from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote, please.
Board Member Ken LeBlanc,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Eberhardt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Worley,
Yes.
Councilmember Charles,
Yes.
Board Member Hartzell.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So, anything else under new business? Okay, we're going to go ahead then and move to old business.
I know everyone has already seen this, but I had to get pictures anyways to bring forward, just because I'm excited and very proud of all the work that you have done and all the work that our staff has done, so I brought pictures. I'm hoping that if anybody tunes in, oh, maybe I can get it, there we go. Now-
I found the pots to be very impressive, by the way. What Robbins did pretty much blew me away, you know. I didn't think they would look that full and that, you know, it's probably going to cost me a bunch of money to maintain them all year, but great job, you know, yeah.
We worked real closely with Charles. Him and I went back and forth, and then finally I said, Harry, I've got bigger things I got to do. Tag, you're it. And Harry's done a phenomenal job with it.
Yeah, great job, Harry.
Yeah, he's done really
Great
good.
job.
So they're supposed to be coming in and putting some sod around, because you can see where it's exposed. There was all the rain that came in, and so they weren't able to get the sod in, so we're waiting for that to come.
And that's all part of the
Oh, yeah,
coast?
this is already,
Yep.
yes, ma'am, that'll finish the project. They were going to shift some of these over just because you can see that they weren't centered, so they did some of that. Harry's been down there working with them because we had some irrigation issues even today that they had to take care of. So some of the pictures, just so you can see, even though I know you've been down there. I love that he kind of changed it up so that you don't get the same thing when you go through. But he did stick with, we told him we wanted it to be low maintenance, we wanted it to be native plants and things of that nature. And then he helped us out with the pots. And I don't know if y'all heard me say this before. There goes my country accent with the y'all. Sorry. But it was interesting because Sebring had picked the same pot, but a different color. And to see just the transition in our communities, but that we wanted 3 because we want it to be a lot, and they chose 1 single pot for theirs. So it was just interesting, and so now with HDTV coming, you know, they'll see it. And I think they chose a black pot because they do more black predominantly. So there are those pictures. I have one, what Ken was referring to as far as with the sign. This was actually done by the previous town administrator. He had these. So there were previous CRA projects where he put them out. I will tell you, I consulted with Ms. Riddell because I know that this is not part of our
Sign ordinance.
So, but then, of course, it did raise questions for me because I'm like, well, how did the previous administrator put that out? So we are working on something that will be more friendly with our code. That's in the process. But because we've had so many people that are asking, we went ahead and put this out there so that people know that it is, you know, their money is paid for this.
But I want to make sure that the chief, because he's now in code enforcement, you're not going to come pull up our signs.
There is a stipulation in our code that the chief of police can approve temporary sign permits, and that's one that would be approved.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Approval. Great.
So we are working on something that may be a little different than this and look a little more professional too. Let me see. And then Dow Hall, again, we didn't have the pictures last month, but you can see here. So it goes through the progress at the Dow Hall building. I'm just going to keep moving through. Nice. These were all prior, so I'm going to get to, these were wait. Yes, right, Harry? I was gonna say, this is the new one. We had to have this installed. He's done, he's made sure with the AC and the AC vents. He also made sure with our fire, making sure we had our exit signs, and it's done very well. Now, there is a question about one of the other bathrooms, because it is 2 bathrooms, but we really need one of the bathrooms because there is no storage there, so we're discussing that, what that may look like. But the bathroom we worked on is ADA compliant, and this is the finished job. Looks really nice, doesn't it?
I walked through it. It looks really nice. You guys did a great job. Yeah.
And then the exit sign, and then oh, I have the vent again, just to show that there is AC throughout the whole building, because we had to run that. So we have progress. In the CRA district, we have 3 parks that I want to put on your radar for next year. I know that we have some things that are already here. I say next year, but really it's going to come before you probably at the next meeting as well. In the April meeting with Town Council, we're going to be bringing the results from our playground safety inspection that took place, and the 3 parks that are located within the CRA district are all of top priority. Lake June Park actually falls 4th on the list. And Alan, you may have to help me with this one, but Spruce Park was at the top of our list, that right now that park needs ASAP immediate attention.
Which park is that?
Spruce Park.
Sure.
Alan?
It's the one out behind, I call it behind Tab.
You guys might know it as Gladiola Park, but it's
Gladiola.
at the intersection of
yeah.
Spruce and Gladiola.
Right across from a couple rundown buildings that need to be taken down.
We've recently repainted all those structures. They're structurally okay, but they're just very, very old, and we had safety servicing installed.
So he put in the report as soon as it was feasible to remove, but because of the age of the structures and things of that nature, it's something to put on our radar. So not to make any decisions, but there are some pieces that we may need to remove and replace, and so it'll come back before you so that you can evaluate that and determine if that's something you want to do now or wait. We've just received our report, so we won't even have all of the details for our April council meeting. For our council meeting next month. Next week. I got February, March, we're in transition. But for next Monday, we won't have all of that compiled, so you'll get some of that information before council does.
Well, in that park, and also the 3 that you're talking about, Serenity, Taylor Park, and Gladiola, although we call it all kinds of names, right? Those could be good candidates for these recycled benches. Because right now, the one does, I like Gladiola. What do we call that one out at Spruce and Gladiola? There's a different name you call it. You call it Gladiola Park?
I've always known it as Spruce Park.
Spruce Park. Because that has like a picnic table in one corner, and it has a bench in the other, and both of them are shaded. So it's got some good bones, that park. The playground equipment is old, but yes, a lot of those benches could be recycled, because they're worn. So I think when we ask the question, what do we do with these benches? I think some of these parks that are isolated, they can put them to really good use for.
I agree. I think the one on Dow Hall, though, we should use the new benches because it's right in downtown. While you got this building we're talking about, I walked it with Harry, and we looked outside because there was discussion about how to create an outside covered area, and and I know there was discussion about doing an aluminum roof, and I really think that's cheap and cheesy, and we want to avoid that. So what I told Harry was, I'll put together a budget to do, to cut the rafters back, the overhang back, and go on top of the existing beam, and do a project where we have a roof-covered area outside, but it's with 8-foot high ceiling and tying into the existing roof and all that kind of stuff. And let me see what I would charge as a builder to do it, right? Not saying I have to do it by any means, but what I think it would cost, because I would rather see us come up with the money to do it right than to do it cheap, save money, do it cheap and cheesy. you know, at that location. You know, how we, you know, once I come up with some numbers and I tell you what I think it would cost, how you do it is up to purchasing, right? And I do realize sometimes you stick something through the town and everything gets more expensive for some reason, you know? And, so we'll just see what happens with that. But I'll try over the next, say, 3 weeks or so to come back with Charlotte and just give her numbers of where I see that falling, right? And then we could decide what to do with it from there.
But just on that conversation, Charlotte, as you earlier said, well, we've got a lot of money that we're not going to be hitting for the budget. And if we've got some relatively quicker hits with getting these playgrounds up to snuff, then I don't think any of us has a problem, you know, call it the next meeting, of then looking at a lower priority to basically fund that. Because that's the progress we'd like to see, but not at the expense of an overwhelmed or an overloaded staff. So that's where you have to come back and help us with what is the right level that we can do. And a lot of it just, you know, outsource it to somebody else, but you have to oversee the project.
Thank you, Councilwoman Charles, for that, because we've been discussing it. How can we do it? What, you know, how do we do this? Because these are the fun projects we really like to see come forward, because it's aesthetically pleasing, but it's also providing a service to our residents.
But we also have the, what do you call it, the parks master plan taking place, so then you have to delicately balance, okay, what are we going to put in place in these parks while we're having this whole master plan taking place? So that's kind of going to be a timing challenge, right? Is, do you just wait and do nothing until that's done, but how long is that going to take?
So very good questions, and that's what we've talked about, because when we looked through the parks, and again, we'll bring this up, and we'll have more to bring forward, but we've looked at if we were to take out and replace like with like, but what's the real vision for that park?
Yeah.
So when you're going through this month, look at it. What do you envision for that park? I've challenged them, what do you envision for the park? You're the experts down there. You know what's happening. You know what the upkeep is. We've been able to look at the Placer AI data, which is great. Believe it or not, that park is used a lot. And
Which
that's,
one?
Spruce Park,
Yeah.
or Gladiola.
Yeah.
It's used a lot. And that's just based off of those that we're getting beams off of with the phones, because you got to think that a lot of these children that are using the park may not necessarily have phones, so we're not capturing everybody. But it is
That's
used
the
a
only
lot.
park I've seen people in.
Yes.
And I've been touring. And,
Oh, well, then you're not touring at the right time.
but
because-
I work, you
No.
know.
I'll start calling you.
Take pictures.
But, I mean, so will they, anyways, you know, so the anxiety is getting them to get going on the master park plan. And I think we're still a month away, because then you would have workshops and you'd allow the neighborhood to give you ideas of what they would like to see there.
Who's doing that? Is that part of the Central
Yeah.
Regional?
Oh,
Okay,
no, that's
they're doing
TDC.
parks?
That one's TDC, so, yeah.
TDC's doing.
TDC plan.
TDC is doing that one.
Who have they hired to do it, or are they doing it in-house?
We know that.
I do know that, but it's right on the top of my head.
It's not
Who did
GameStop,
Spring
it's
Lake-
not-
Who did Spring Lake use? What did Spring Lake?
No,
Is
they
it
used
Peroni?
Catalyst. Follow up. Yeah, huddle up.
Okay, so they're working on all the parks, yeah, and Bicentennial Park included.
They're doing countywide. So there was, through the Tourist Development Council, there was a grant opportunity. And so the municipalities could apply to be able to go out for a master parks and rec plan. Whenever it went before the TDC, they realized that only Avon Park didn't apply for it. Sebring and Lake Placid did. And they were told that it was a better price and would benefit us more if we went in for countywide. So it's countywide now. So they had to make some changes to that. So they're going to come and view all of our parks, and they'll do a master plan for us.
So let me ask you, Bicentennial Park, you know, needs to be designed, right? So are they going to do a design, or no? So what kind of stuff do they come back with to tell us about our parks?
They'll come view our parks, but then they're gonna do the workshops. They'll ask people what they want to see there. They'll look at the park, they'll look at the landscape, they'll look at everything that's there, and they'll say, this is what we believe would be best suited for that park.
But they're not going to design it. They're
No.
just telling us verbally.
Right.
Okay.
And they'll give you,
Yeah.
they'll give you like a plan, so that
Yeah.
you have it. And we're exploring from
Okay.
the administrative side on, okay, well, now if we end up with this plan, what are we going to do? Is it just going to sit on the shelf now and collect dust? Well,
Yeah.
there's another opportunity for us to apply for a separate grant where there's a company that will come out and they have an implementation team that will help us do the implementation process. They basically work like our cheerleaders to make sure we're moving this forward.
Okay, so, I mean, we have other things we're working on. At some point, I'd like to see us design Bicentennial Park and go down the process, but your thinking is let's let them do their job first, and then let's use their data to help us decide what we want to put into the park and design the park at that point, so that sounds good.
Yeah, my guess is for something as small as Spruce Park, which we refer to as a neighborhood park, they're going to say you need playground stuff. I doubt that they're going to spend their time as much concentrating on that park as the bigger ones, because they're looking at sports.
Yes.
They're looking at tourism, what's going to bring tourism into our town. That's their whole focus. So
When do we expect to see the results of this?
I think we're months away, right?
So they had
So soon.
originally planned to start the end of February, but that was when it was broken out by municipality. But now they've had to redo the contract, so it's with legal at the county. Ideally, though, they had originally planned to start the end of February, and it would be done before we started into budget session in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I will, on the park comment, Alan did go ahead and he got some quotes. He went online and he looked, if we replaced piece for piece, what it would be, and roughly came up with about $10,000 for each of the parks within the CRA district.
Yeah.
Alan, do you want to
That's-
make a comment on that?
That price would exclude shipping and installation. That's just for pieces being replaced.
Yeah.
And that's, like you say, it's the small pieces, swing sets, merry-go-rounds, teeter-totters. That's not a structure.
Right. I think we'll be able, so at the next meeting, I think this will be a good one where we can say, yeah, let's just go on Spruce Park. That Huddle Up's going to come in.
And do the rest.
I don't think they're going to touch a few of the smaller ones because there's no tourism there for them to touch. So it's like, I don't want to wait for them to come back to say, we're not going to do that when for 10,000, we've got money that's going to be unspent per the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's look at then what can we relatively pull ahead. But again, with you guys' recommendations
Yeah,
too.
if you could just make sure that there's visuals for us to see, next time. So if we're going to talk about that stuff, we're seeing things and pricing and all that stuff. And then if you could make sure, Charlotte, that we all know when they're doing a workshop for parks in town, or
Most
wherever we got to go, because like to
So
be
Alan,
there.
you were going to say something else and I think we cut you off.
No, I was just going to say that, we can definitely do the two smaller parks, but like Ken said, I would like to see a vision for Bicentennial. That way I know a color scheme, a theme, something you want to go with long-term, rather than just galvanized colored playground equipment.
In Charlotte, you said the top three, so was there an order that they told us? Was it like Spruce, Bicentennial, and Taylor? I mean, those I'm assuming
Can
are
y'all
the three.
remember, guys?
It's over Serenity Village.
That's
It's the one in
Taylor.
Serenity, isn't that
That's
correct,
Taylor.
the third one?
That's Taylor. Serenity Village, the
Yeah,
park's
Taylor.
called Taylor.
So I think that's the three. in
That's
the
what
CRA.
I'm asking that. Yeah.
All in the district,
And what?
all within the CRA district.
Right. Those are the three within CRA, so we've got excessive funds, so looking forward to your recommendations.
Now, in regards to the Bicentennial or the Dow Hall, Dennis, the town engineer, did put together something. Now, remember, this is just based off of his land development engineering, and he put it together. It's nothing set in stone. So he does have like a conceptual that was put together between him and Mr. McCarthy. So I can get a copy of that and send it to you just so you can kind of see what that design had originally looked like.
What was that
It
for?
was with a lot of paving. However, the paving part, we've got to look at, because my understanding, anyways, there's more, we need to explore that a little bit more, because I think I know it has to be along the perimeter.
Which park? We didn't catch.
Bicentennial.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to start designing Bicentennial Park, and all the asphalt parking they were doing in the grass area, I kind of think we need to axe that and just do paving down the whole backside, and just do down that fence line there myself. Handicap parking and everything else down there to save the grass area for the park. you know, you're not going to get that back
Oh,
again. you
totally.
know, So, but I'd love to start looking at that and start putting feedback into designing that. And, yeah, I don't want that to be a 2-year project, you know. And really, it's going to be, you know, well, we got to look at paving, you know, new fencing, new playground equipment and things like that, you know, shade structures, whatever.
And then just keep in mind that we do have the opportunity, though, to not just replace like with like, I say dream big, but we obviously we've got to be
Yeah, right.
frugal, but also keep in mind that because we have an opportunity, then do we want to just replace like with like, or do we want to make it better?
Yeah,
What does that look like?
agreed.
I would also consider that you should have some kind of ADA accessibility, some kind of sidewalk running through the park, and then if you want to connect the playground area to the building, whether you want a gate installed on that fence line.
Yeah. Yeah, and on Bicentennial Park, I think we should have a sidewalk from the Bicentennial building that you guys are renovating to the county's parking lot, you know, a couple doors to the west. I think we should look at a sidewalk project to connect that, because that's additional parking that can serve this also, especially when somebody's having a birthday party there while other people are out in the playground and stuff, it might be utilized, so.
That's our parking lot, that's the town, where
No,
Ben's
that's
takes
That's
over.
county, right? Where the retention pond is, that parking lot, I've been told,
That's
is the
where
county.
Ben's parks their vehicles all the time? The
County
Ben's
property.
AC, that's ours.
County
No,
property.
that's county,
That's,
right?
that's county?
Yes.
Yeah, they put the retention pond in when they did Dow Hall, is my understanding, and the parking lot, and that's
It
all.
was all part of the Dow
Debra
Hall.
knows, yeah.
re-
But there's
re-
no public parking sign there, right? So that would
Should
be the
be.
county has to
Should
put
be.
it?
Yeah,
Well,
I
it-
mean, we
yeah,
need
it's
it.
public.
It should be part of our signage.
There is no sign there,
No, we
yeah.
need to put it in, yeah.
Okay, so any other old business?
I would just ask staff, is there any other ideas of pull ahead that, from the CRA projects that we've listed, that we should consider? So we kind of kicked it around, but, and again, we've got $200,000 and the timing is all going to be wrong. What do you guys recommended that maybe we look at as a priority?
Do you want me to mention the one that we've talked about, Alan?
Uh,
Or do you want to talk about it?
I thought she mentioned the ones that have already been listed. If you're talking about paving or something. that
Yes,
might
that's
be-
what I'm
that
talking
might-
about.
That would be like more looking towards next
When-
year.
When we got to looking at the plan and just really diving into where things were at, road paving is on here. It's on the very last page of the 5-year capital. We didn't budget over the next few years for anything for road paving. And so that's where Alan is supposed to pull his road paving out of. So that was one item that if we are able to, that he has advocated that he would like to see come over. And so again, it's on there. It's not in this budget.
What does he want to pave?
Yeah, what
Well,
specific?
he's got a lot of paving that needs to be done. So what happened is that when we went through the budget time, we thought it was going on the town budget. It didn't go on the town budget because there was an understanding that it would go in the CRA budget, because all of the roads he needs to maintain are within the CRA district. So right now, there's not any money that's budgeted there for this fiscal year.
You know, I'd like to say, though, the CRA, my understanding, Debra, you could probably help me with this. In the past, the CRA was looked at as a way to pay for infrastructure in the town of Lake Placid, not as a way to do flowers and beautification so much and everything else. So I really would like to see the CRA do the projects that we're doing in town, more so than paving random roads in and about, you know? I realize you have to figure out how to pave roads in town. You know, I'd love to see a list of the roads that are in the CRA district that you want to pave, so that I could drive them, or everybody can drive them and take a look and see if it's worthy of taking CRA dollars to do that road paving versus,
That's what it's for, though,
Yeah.
Ken. It's for that. That's what infrastructure is.
Well, I can
Yeah,
understand
I
putting
get
in
that.
new sidewalks
Yeah.
with the CRA money, but doing maintenance, I don't think that fits.
well, how did
That
we
should be
pave
town maintenance.
How did we pave roads before we had a CRA at all?
But it's been building there too. But remember, when you go back to what the CRA is, that's what it's for. It's for infrastructure. It's for beautification, but it's also for infrastructure.
Yeah, I get that we can pay for it. I'm just afraid, paving can take a lot of money, out of a budget.
Workshops discussion, a question came up, can you use CRA money for repair and maintenance? And the answer was no.
Correct.
And that's where I think this gets to be the gray area. You got to maintain the roads. Is that really fall under CRA, or is that maintenance?
That's not, it's not considered maintenance, it's considered an overlay, a repaving.
An overlay is different than a pothole. Is that maybe the
Correct.
difference?
Yes.
Well, maybe you could come forward with your, what needs to be done first and the cost.
List of
and
roads,
maybe your
yeah.
wish list of all of the roads that need to be done, and then we can prioritize them.
Yeah, and what kind of money is it costing,
Yeah,
per
sure.
road? I mean, yeah.
There's, one off the top of my head would be Waldo Aliff, but
Where?
I'll have to do an assessment so you can judge for you.
I can't hear any.
Yeah, we can barely hear anything you're saying.
Sorry, Waldo Aliff Avenue would be one that I would recommend right off the bat. But I'll have to do an assessment, and you can check them all out.
What avenue?
They don't know where that is.
No, I didn't hear it.
Do you know?
It's behind the Dollar General.
But what's the name of the road is what I said.
Waldo Aliff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's what I didn't hear.
Between
Waldo
the
Aliff.
baseball fields and the Dollar General over by 27. Yeah, I mean, maybe, Charlotte, you could email a list to everybody. These are the roads in their priority order. And if you have any idea what we're talking about money-wise per road, I mean, we could blow the entire budget in a year just paving, So, I mean, are we talking about trying to find 20,000? Are we talking about trying to find 80 or 100,000? That's a big difference, I think.
Our goal used to be 3 roads per year. But
3 roads?
Yeah, according to Rachel, prior to the CRA, the town did fund it. I don't know where the money came from specifically. I wasn't involved in it back then.
I mean, as long as CRA is doing, a good job of beautification and projects downtown and has money available to pave, personally, I have no problem with it. I just don't want to, only do infrastructure. I mean, I guess maybe plants can be considered infrastructure.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get the wish list and the
Yeah.
cost.
I will look at it.
Whether it's, very specific, whether it's between this street and this street, it's the whole street, where it is, so then it gives us all time to drive around and look at the condition and what we think people are using in the downtown, in our CRA area. That would benefit the CRA. And so let's do that. So we'll have that as a project too for next meeting. So is there anything else that anybody?
Can I recap? I'm going to recap. So we're going to look at the parks, right? So everybody will look at the parks. Then we're going to look at the map, what we sent out with where the park benches are, so that we can identify where you all believe we should potentially put the park benches first. And then the next thing would be for us to follow up and be able to get the road list.
And the lighting.
Oh,
We
yes,
were
I'm
gonna
sorry,
t-
and
we
the
were gonna-
lighting. So we have four
Yeah.
tasks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're going to order one bench.
Right, one bench. Okay,
Oh, and you're going to
assemble it and have it out here.
that and the flower pots on the other side of Interlake, you've got permission to go ahead and pursue that.
I would put the bench out front where the new flowers are, because this door is always locked. So if we really want everybody to drive by it, you can just drive by it, look, or you can get out and look at it, but
Good idea.
I would put it out there.
Okay. Good, all right.
Or you could put it in downtown somewhere and just tell us where it is downtown, because that's the setting that we actually want it in. So find a place. I don't think Maine has many or any of the benches right now. So we got a lot of benches on Interlake, but I'm not sure Maine has any. Maybe there's a spot on Maine you could find to put one and see how it looks there. But it doesn't matter if it's there or Interlake, really. But, yeah.
Okay, so I think we've recapped, and any other old business? Anything from the public?
Just
Okay,
to-
well,
Debra, just to, Vice Mayor, just to make note that the annual report
Yeah,
for 22, 23, 24 is in your packet. I just want to make a notice to the public that is on our website. The annual report along with our yearly budgets are there. The CRA district plan is there. So if anybody ever wants to go to that website, go to our website and then go to the CRA tab, the annual report for 23, 24 is there, and that's done annually.
Well, thank you, and it's a great packet, and I'm going to study it.
And we're going to keep doing meetings like we are monthly right now until we get ahead of everything, I think. And then you said maybe we can go to quarterly meetings. I get that. At some point, we probably can, but we've been doing a lot of, good work, very quickly by doing this, so I appreciate, us doing monthly meetings. But I do think you're right. At some point, we should be able to get back to maybe quarterly meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does anybody have an idea, would it be better to meet like at 9 in the morning? I don't know how staff can do
That
that.
would make it worse.
Yeah.
No, I'm still
Yeah.
with Brantley at 5:30.
But,
Because
yeah.
our folks that have businesses, they can't come. And
No,
if it
yeah, I
wasn't
get
on my day off, I couldn't come here.
But, we've had a 2.5-hour meeting, and I think we need, we're probably going to continue having 2 to 2.5-hour meetings, for the next few meetings until we get ahead, and at some point, because I'm worried that if we do it back at 5:30 before a town council meeting, now all of a sudden you guys are pushing into 10:30, 11, and 12 o'clock again. We were able to do a lot of good work today by taking our time and going through things, and I just think until we get caught up, and to a point that we're ahead, I think we need this amount of time. And, I don't really like when we were pushing to get out of CRA so you get to town council because you knew we were going to be there to midnight anyways, But I do agree, at some point we'll get there, and not that long away probably. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
There
I'm
is,
afraid you're going to move it back to 5:30 and you guys are going to be here till midnight. And I usually stay for this meeting.
it's okay. I was just going to say, we had some issues with with our email today. We had great issues with that, but I was trying to pull it up before I came in here, and I did not get to it. But there is a breakfast that's coming up through the HGTV. Do you remember what day that is? I thought it was the 23rd, 28th, something like that. They have a breakfast. We'll send it out. We'll send it out so that everybody is aware, because they want all of our boards, they want our CRA boards to come. It's open because it's a huge kickoff for the HGTV. It's going to be a lot of you might have it of, the dignitaries that are in the areas and everything like that, and anybody who sits on a board, our mayors, our elected officials, they want everybody to come out who is participating in any of the work that's being done through the whole county. So we're trying to get that out. We want y'all there. We need everybody there. So if you don't, Councilwoman Eberhardt, I can. Thank you.
What time? What time?
Is it to be determined, I think?
Where is it at?
They're trying to do it at the Downtown Theater, downtown Sebring.
The Circle
Out the
Theater.
Circle Theater, yeah. So as soon as we get that information, we'll send it out. I'm going to send it to all of our boards and all of our council so that everybody's aware.
Yeah, I haven't had time to listen to the verbal last conversation, but, so I'm going to go down and ask if there's any comments. Ms. Harper? No? Mr. Hartzell?
Yeah, Ken.
Mr. LeBlanc, do you have anything else? Ms. Hayes?
No, ma'am, I'm done. I'm good.
Okay, thank you all for coming and participating. Call the meeting to adjournment at 4:20.